allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. Do we have any public comments?
Ken, prayer?
Thank you. I'd like to pray over this meeting if I might. We come before you today to give you honor and praise. You are worthy of praise. You are the source of all that is good. You are the source of all our blessings. Thank you for every gift that we have been given. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to come and gather this day. We ask for your hand of blessing on this meeting. We ask that you would guide and direct our meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work and our goal this day. In Jesus' name, amen.
Marvin, communication values statement?
Okay, thank you. The first thing I noticed about this evening's agenda is that there was no town hall. And in having had some discussion with some of the board members, it appears that
having one is not allowed by the current operating rules. And so I would encourage the board and the administration to figure out a way that we can have a bidirectional public discussion, because that kind of discussion, and especially the answering of questions, is very important for the community to understand what's going on and which direction we're going, and as well as to provide input. The other thing I'd like to express is my support for the value statement. I like the old statement 4 better, but the new statement 4 is acceptable to me, so either way, I support it. Thank you.
The Board of Trustees won't typically respond, but I can and will if you don't mind. There is a process that's already been developed by Idaho Open Meeting Law. And so there are multiple paths because we do want the input from the public. And so one of the things, if you notice something is on and you want it to be brought to the board's agenda or attention, is to come and simply make a statement, as you just did. This is something we'd like you to consider. The board then will, if they feel like it's important, will direct that it becomes part of the next agenda, and that's when they discuss it and take action if that's what's necessary. As far as that two-way communication, the Board of Trustees has someone in place to be their representative, and that's my position. And so anytime a patron has a concern or a question, call me, get on my schedule. I try to be as open as I possibly can and fitting people in, and I can answer questions. And if I don't know the answer, which sometimes I won't, I guarantee that, I'll find the answer and give it to you. And then if you get your answer, great, and we can have multiple meetings if we need. If you don't get your answer, then you go to the next meeting and you get on this agenda, or you can either ask to be on the agenda so that you can be part of that conversation about that topic, or you can just do the open comments or the public comments. So it is built into that. We just have to follow a guideline for that. And if you think about an example, let's say that you really care deeply about parking lots. Maybe you even own a business that does the work of grading parking lots. You're going to be watching school board agendas for that topic to come up because you're interested, you want to know so that you can put in a bid if there's one coming up. So if the board just at any time takes public comment and starts talking about something and it's a parking lot that comes up, that person didn't have his rights were taken from him because he didn't have a right to be there and be there for that public comment. So that's the reason for that. And I certainly am willing to discuss that more with anybody at any time. Give me a call. 983-0990.
thank you.
Okay?
May I say anything further?
As long as we're not over your time, I think we're on a clock. I'm sorry, I used a bunch of yours.
We still had 2 minutes left when you started, so.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification. If that could be distributed or made available to us in written format so we know what the rules are, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely, I'll do that for you.
Thank you.
Sue, value statement?
Thank you. I'm a believer in God, and more specifically a Christ follower. I don't have any specific demands on how you refer to me. I realize we may not share the same belief system, and I don't expect any special consideration for that. I just want to be respected, treated kindly, and included, as does everyone with a different belief system. My values are formed by my belief system, which also happens to be instrumental in the inception and structuring of laws of this great country. There's a reason parents choose alternatives to public school. And when they do, it takes effort, expense, and sacrifice to homeschool or to send children to private school. Many of these parents would love to send their children to public school, but they don't want to have to deal with the progressive indoctrination that is happening. This value statement and the original are nothing more than an effort to protect children, to allow teachers to teach, and to allow parents to parent. We all have our roles. I would hope that children in government-run schools would have as much worth and value as those who go to private schools or are homeschooled. Please be as willing to stand for this value statement as you were to stand for the levy, because it's for the children, and I think they are worth it. At least they're worth it to me.
Roger, SRO program, value statement.
Alicia, I appreciate your willingness to dialogue with us. I think that's critical to have that communication between us and the board. You made a statement last month. Unfortunately, I couldn't address it because we couldn't talk after you made your statement, so I'm going to address that now. You said something to the effect that teachers can't be security guards. Remember that? Okay. So I taught active shooter response to over 300 agencies up and down the state of California, from San Diego PD to Sacramento Sheriff's Office. The cadre I was involved with, we looked at the data, we did the research, put that together. So we're pretty well read on the subject. I also was a patrol shift commander, and I supervised SROs through many years. So I've got a lot of experience with SROs, school resource officers. They have a lot of positive benefits, and I fully support you guys trying to get those here. But they fall short in a lot of areas, one of which is they're not always at the schools they're assigned to. They go on vacation, they get sick, they go to trainings, they go back to their office to get paperwork, or go to meetings. So they're not always at the schools. So that's why it's critical that we also have trained staff, whether it's teachers, other staff members that are trained and are able to stop a deadly threat if it arises. Most casualties and deaths occur in active shooter situations within the first few minutes. Most of the time before law enforcement can arrive and address the threat. So it's absolutely critical, in my mind, to actually have staff that's able to deal with that type of situation, especially in our rural county. As we all know, law enforcement's pretty limited. Another subject, and I only have 3 minutes, so I got to just move it. The other subject is the value statement. I really like the value statement that was voted on last meeting. I don't know why it wasn't adopted, especially Tyler, when you said you agreed with the first 3 points, but you didn't agree with the last point. And the last point really just protects the first 3 points. So I didn't understand that, but again, we can't dialogue, so that's unfortunate. I don't care about parking lots, so I'm not going to talk about that. And then the other subject is being able to dialogue with the board. I wish we could do something about that and maybe get a different protocol. So, thank you for your attention.
Jeff, to be determined.
I'm sorry?
Oh, let me,
It's Jeff, to be
Yeah.
determined.
yeah, Jeff, live in Grangeville. I signed the comment section before I was able to get this, so I wasn't sure of the order of the agenda. This is my first board meeting to be able to attend. I've been to the one where we discussed the superintendents when we had that meeting there in Grangeville, and we're able to, hear from the candidates for superintendent. But, so, I haven't had a chance to hear, because I didn't know where the comment section was, where we were going to be allowed to speak. So I wanted to hear some things first before I was able to maybe come to some ideas of things that might need to be said, but I don't have that opportunity since this is just my first board meeting. So more than likely, I'll probably have some things and then be able to bring them about the next time there's a board meeting. So that's why I put to be announced, because I wanted to hear things first before I was able to speak. So I would like to do that. But I do have one thing in regards to, when the levy was being presented, my wife and I have been living in Grangeville now for 3 years. There was, the issue of local control. And I believe that a lot of the things that are being presented here, through the school board and through our curriculums and, the DEI, the critical race theories and whatever, and Common Core, I don't believe that's local. I don't think the influence from that is local. And we need to protect what Idaho is and what Idaho County is, and protect the hearts and the minds of our children. And all of those things that we're presenting here, I don't believe come from local influence. And we need to keep our eyes focused on what is the value of Idaho and Idaho County when it comes to our children. That's it.
All right, moving on to consent agenda. Approval of minutes. Anybody have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as reported in section C.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Reports. Superintendent report.
All right, so at the end of this next week, I will be 1/4 of the way through my year at Mountain View School District. Doesn't that blow you away? That does. I just think how fast time goes, and I have to say, every single day I'm pleasantly surprised. Every day. Have there been hard days? Absolutely. You can't work with this many people and children and not have hard days, but it's been amazing the first quarter of the year, and every day our technology is amazing. Michael needs a huge pat on the back. He's so responsive.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Huge pat on the back. Our buildings are in good shape. The people who I need to talk to about buildings are responsive and answer questions about that. It's so much fun to be in the buildings today. I spent half the day at Clearwater Valley Junior Senior High and the other half at CVE, and I have a little friend at CVE who, she and I are tight now. I was so proud of her. She started to run down the hall, and then she saw 3 adults and went, whoop, and started walking. And I applauded her and told her, good job, I'm making a good choice, and that she could do that next time without adults, and it was awesome. Kids are fun. It's nice to be back. Thank you for that. Overall enrollment for the district, it looks like most classes are about 73 to 75 kids. We have an overall enrollment currently of 1,058 students. Our biggest class is our freshman class with 107 students. Our largest numbers are at the high school, which just is indicative probably of a fluctuation in child rates. I think there's a lot of homeschooling, and hopefully we can encourage some of those kids to come back to brick and mortar. Of course, that's a parent's decision. I have 3 goals, and I report on those 3 goals every month. And so my first one is to put the joy back in living and loving and living and learning in Mountain View School District. The attitude in the buildings is pleasant. The buildings look good. The staff feels good. I got a parent letter this last week. I shared it with the GEMS principal because it was a parent who had been homeschooling their children for years, and because of a change in family dynamics, had to put them back into school. And so he had his kids in school 1 year, last school year, and he just sung the praises of his children's teachers and of the school and the principal there. It's so fun to get those emails. The first thing I said was, can I share this? And he said, absolutely. So I shared it with Mrs. Mrs. Robinson and then the specific teachers as well as the whole school, because they all recognize that. So it's great to have that joy. My next agenda, or my next goal for the year, is to redevelop procedures and practices and to promote efficiency. And with the amount of turnover we've had, you lose a lot of institutional knowledge with that. And so some of our practices, and I'm not speaking policies here, I'm just talking about practices and procedures, have kind of fallen apart. And so we're working hard on clarifying those and developing them so that they are effective. One of them that we'll be talking about in an agenda coming to you soon, or to a theater near you, is teacher evaluations. We pay for a program. It was the typical, the state of Idaho often buys programs and gives them to schools, and then 3 years later they say, okay, we're done paying for that now, and then schools are stuck with the bill. And we've continued that. I really am going to recommend that we go away from it. I think it's not a good use of our money, and we can make the evaluation process more efficient. So more information about that coming up. And again, what's sustainable continues to happen. So we need to think about sustainability, and we need to think about efficiency. And then professional development and learning for everyone. Tomorrow is the first Teacher Professional Development Day. I worked with administrators about clarifying what that meant and how that time could be used, and then communicating and documenting that. I've been working with the board in professional development and my office, and even myself. I attended the Region 2 Superintendent's meeting yesterday in Lewiston, and lots of good information about that and some projects that are coming and available to us soon. That's my superintendent report.
Wonderful. How about move on to any comments?
What about any grants or anything?
Oh, I was saving that to the SRO.
Okay, do that. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, you can do it later. I don't want to hurt your mellow.
All right. Let's move on to principal reports. Anything?
Oh, it's right there.
Yeah, I'll report. So, Melanie Martinez, principal of Clearwater Valley Elementary and Elk City Schools. So, I'll start here at MVSD with Clearwater Valley Elementary. Very happy to have a new counselor with us again this year. Last year we had hired a counselor, and we're so excited to have somebody full time. We really need that at our level and our kiddos here. Unfortunately, that member had to move back to their community, and so we were without for the second half of the year. That was a big ask to try to do all the counseling and the principal role. So it's very helpful to have a new member on our team, and he's doing a fantastic job. We completed our first emergency drill of the year and did a great job. Kids and all staff members exited the building in just under 4 minutes, which I thought was fantastic. So we're working on that. We also had bus safety drills in the first 2 weeks of school, so that was a great success. The kids learned how to get on the buses safely, how to exit in case of an emergency. The bus drivers came, talked to each of the classes. The students were able to get on, exit, and then learn the emergency exit drills and how to safely cross. So very proud of the bus drivers and our transportation supervisor for that. Thank you. In Elk City School, we have another new teacher again this year. This teacher comes to us from Weiser, has a wealth of experience, and is doing a great job. I forgot to mention, I'm going to go back. CV Elementary also has another new teacher in our 6th grade position, also doing a fantastic job. In Elk City, we have a unique position. We have 14 students there this year, looking at getting a 15th student because this teacher is already doing such a great job that the community is noticing and saying, hey, we want to put our kids in school, and what a kudos to her. So we are making some progress there on, like Ms. Holthouse said, processes and procedures and routines, just take some things out that maybe haven't been done in the past few years. They also completed their emergency drill. All kiddos and staff members were out of the building in under 2 minutes, so that was fantastic. And then something to celebrate is the students, again, in that small school setting, we've got kindergarten through 8th grade all working together. It's so encouraging to watch the older students helping the younger students. They were working on the rock cycle recently and going out and investigating, so loving science and getting out in the outdoors. So it's a great start to the new school year. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Vincent Martinez. I am the building principal here at Clearwater Valley Junior High and Senior High. I am in my first year as a principal, along with 7 other new staff members as teachers and paraprofessionals. So those those individuals, myself included. I think we've done a great job. Our staff coming in fresh into a new program, new system, have hit the ground running. One of them standing behind me right here, Mrs. Janine Wilson. We're glad to have her on board. She's our PE multi-subject, PE health, econ, and geography teacher, so she's well-rounded in what she does, and so we're fortunate to have her and others as well. A couple of goals that I had that we've been working on here is one is to increase those scores that you guys see and out there, the ISAT scores. We went through our initial round of benchmark testing, finished that up in 7th through 11th grades in the areas of science, math, and English language arts. So we'll get our preliminary scores and see how we can build from that. Culture-wise was another area of a goal that I'd like to, that I attached to our school here. And in that culture, from the feedback I'm getting in this long first 3 weeks, community members, students, parents, patrons, and some staff have said that there is a positive nature to it. The halls look clearer, meaning they're in the classroom learning. It's a quiet environment. We've already reduced our tardies, and kids themselves are claiming that they are getting back to being interested in learning in the classroom. COVID was a pullback, but I think we're pushing forward here right now. Alyssa mentioned PDs, professional development days. We start ours tomorrow. We're working in professional learning communities. Our building has decided we are going to do professional learning communities around nine characteristics of effective schools. So we'll break into three groups. Each group will take 3 of those 9 and break that down, unpack that, and where have we been, where do we need to be, and how are we going to get there. So that's kind of what we're doing. And that will go in line. This year we are up, our school is up for accreditation. So that will fall into accreditation. I will be in January authoring our final narratives on 4 characteristics and 30 elements of accreditation to get our school continued accreditation with Cognia in the state of Idaho. We did also do our fire drill, a new program, new process, a new way at which we're going to organize and account for each and every one of our students and staff. Our time on the new system in a new location was right at 5 minutes and 1 second. So with our 172 kids, that's not too bad. And I say cleared, not exited the building. That's all lined up and in their organized way. And at the point at which I was assured by various staff members and our system that all kids, all students, all adults were accounted for. So that's a little different than cleared the building. We're out of the building a lot earlier than that. And then I have 2 more things in terms of that culture and student. We were fortunate this year to out of 6 regions in the state of Idaho, the state of Idaho offers awards an interscholastic star. We had 1 student. We've only had 3 in our Clearwater Valley history. So 1 student took the prize for our region and our District 2 here. So that's a pretty big feat for a small school to pick that prize up. And that banner will forever hang in our building as long as we exist here. And on top of that, and it's because of our great teachers, Mr. Martin Nuxall, he's been here 19 years, taught chemistry, physical science, biology, inquiry science, dual credit chemistry, CAD, woodworking, physics, and earth science. He's well-rounded, and I offer to you that we get interscholastic stars because of fine educators like Martin. And one of his students, my former softball player who's now off to college in her freshman year, she wrote, if you see Mr. Martin Nuxall, tell him he is the best teacher ever. Tell him I thank him so much for teaching me dimensional analysis and for being so thorough in chemistry. I am in the top of both my math and bio classes. So we're proud to have educators like that and to be doing the service we do for every student and patron here at Clearwater Valley Junior Senior High School.
My claim to fame is I was Martin Nussle's junior high math teacher.
I'm going to tell her, because we have fine educators like this in the whole house, that we are able to produce students like that. Thank you.
Moving on to financial report. Carly?
So nothing too new on the financial report, but what I did want to point out is, so if you guys remember my levy presentation, saying that the $2.9 million levy would be roughly $182 per 100,000. We got the L2 form from the county, and we got the number for our school district facility funds from the state. There were a few numbers being thrown out there, and so we didn't get this number until August 31st, and so I just want you guys to know that it did officially come in at $586,106, and so that will be offsetting the levy. And so this is what we reported to the county to be collected from our patrons. And so now it's this 2.3, almost $2.4 million number. And so don't get me wrong, while I know $182 per 100,000 is still a lot, it dropped it down to $148.50 per 100,000. So that is some funds from the state that offset the levy, and so that burden won't be completely on our taxpayers. So that was kind of my big point of my financial report.
And then Carly, the assessed values, like if you look at your property taxes, the state also did a direct return to your property taxes as well. So when you see it, it's like the second to last line from the total. They actually gave you, I mean, on one property we just saw it was like 8 cents, but it was a vacant land of like 30,000. But still, some people were seeing 100, 200, 300 plus dollars given back directly. Like they were sending the checks, and now they're not sending the checks anymore. They're just directly putting it back in you. So really take a look at your property tax documents you get, because
it should say, yeah, up on the top also that each property will be different, but I know in other local districts who passed a levy last year and had this offset, it said like $100 was offset because of the school district facility fund. So you'll see your difference on yours as well. So yes, keep an eye out for that.
Is that it? Go to business. Audit report. Still you.
Yep, that's me again, and so I'm gonna get Dan Coleman. He's our auditor with Quest CPA on the phone, and he every year obviously helps me out a ton. Super knowledgeable, and he'll give a little spiel about what happened with our audit this year.
Hello,
Hi Dan, it's Carly. How are you?
I'm good, Carly. How's it going?
Good. So I'm with the board. We're on kind of a quiet phone, so if you don't mind, I'd just appreciate you speaking up, but we're ready to go for it.
Okay, very good. My name is Dan Coleman. I did the audit for the school this last year, and I'll be presenting on the audit report tonight. I assume you all have copies of the audit report with you. If not, we can kind of summarize the information either way. So,
They do all have a copy in front of them.
okay, perfect. So As far as the audit process goes, the beginning of June, we send out a shopping list to Carly for items we'd like to review during the audit. And then we set a day to come out and do the field work for the audit. On that day, Carly organizes everything, sends it over to us, and then we start the audit. And basically, we go through the financial statements. We just verify all the balances that exist in the financial statements. And then we also take a look at documentation for the school to make sure that we're keeping good documentation. Just like to report all the procedures we did, everything checked out great. Carly had things in really good shape. I was telling her that if I could give an award for the most improved business manager, it would be her. Last year, she just made significant improvements in the bookkeeping. On top of that, she just is available to answer questions throughout the audit process, so we appreciate her hard work. 3 reports I'll mention just briefly. Pages 1 through 4 is the auditor's report. That's where we express our opinion on the financial statement. We've issued an unmodified opinion. That means that the financial information is accurate. It's the best opinion that we can give, and so very good job there. Towards the back of the audit report, there are 2 other reports I'll mention just briefly, pages 48 and 49. That's a report on internal controls and compliance. So we have some internal controls, review processes, I guess you could say, that we like to see when we do audits. And we'll check against what the school has in place with what we'd like to see and make recommendations if necessary. I think at this point, all the review procedures that we'd like to see are happening there at your school, so that is a clean report as well. And then, of course, on pages 50 through 52, there's a report on major programs. When a school spends over $750,000 of federal money, it requires that we review the federal major programs. There's a selection process where you go through and you select a few of those programs just to review them in greater detail. Everything checked out fine on that report as well, no findings. So 3 reports, all 3 clean. Very good job this year. We'll turn to page 10 to look at the school's finances. On page 10, we're looking at a profit and loss statement for the school's major funds. You have 4 of those. We'll just review those real quickly. First column you see is the general fund. General fund had a loss this last year, $897,499. Our expenses exceeded our revenues. We transferred in from the forest fund a little more than $2 million from the forest fund. And so if you'll see the very bottom number, ending fund balance, $904,435. Based on how much you guys spend monthly, that comes out to be just a little bit under a 1-month operating reserve. We've talked in the past few years about trying to increase that fund balance in the general fund. So I know you're aware of that, and I know we're trying to accomplish that. Second column over, forest fund. Very bottom number, $2,801,295. Forest fund ended with $2.8 million in it. And that forest money has been real good for you guys to, it's kind of a savings account, but also it's there to help the general fund out when you need to. So forest fund is doing good. Third column over, child nutrition fund. We had a loss in the child nutrition fund, $41,972. Ending fund balance, $164,515. This is typical for what I see across all the schools I've been auditing. A majority of the schools are showing losses in the child nutrition fund. A couple of things that factor into that. federal money that we got in the past, COVID money that helped out in that child nutrition fund went away. And then inflation, the higher food costs, have made it real difficult to have revenues exceed expenditures in that child nutrition fund. So we had a loss. We had fund balance carry forward that absorbed that loss. Very bottom number, ending fund balance $164,515. Fourth column over, bus depreciation fund. We're just going to look at that very bottom number, ending fund balance $733,981. So pretty healthy fund balance in your bus depreciation fund. That money is available there to spend on new bus purchases. During the audit, I did review all the non-major funds. Everything checked out fine with the non-major funds. Won't go into any detail on those unless somebody specifically has a question on those. As far as other things that we looked at as we went through the audit, this year at an already busy time for Carly, we also had to do some testing. The State Department of Education asked us to test attendance and staffing, and so we selected some samples and sent those out, and Carly had to send some additional documentation for attendance and staffing. All the documentation that she sent over checked out fine. And just one other note, facilities funding is changing a bunch for school districts. There are several different ways that the State Department of Education has sent out money for facilities funding in the past. Many of those are going away, and starting new this next year, the state is going to run a bond and then send out facility funding based on each school's preference on how they want to receive that money. And so something new that we saw this year, Fund 436 will be set up and used in the future to maintain that facility money as it came out. One other item I'll mention just briefly, it was new this last year. The State Department of Education tried to relieve taxpayers on the levies that schools were running around the state. So they allocated additional sales tax in place of property taxes. On page 42, there was a new fund that you guys set up for that. Page 42, third column over, School District Facilities Fund, very bottom number, $423,794 in that fund as of June 30, 24. So, and it sounds like this next year will be the same process. They'll look at levies and allocate a little more sales tax to help out with those local levies. That's all I have for you tonight. I've covered all the things that I would like to, and so I'm going to hand this back over to Carly, and then I'll be available for any questions or discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I think a few things that I just wanted to point out. So he mentioned the $700,000 balance in our bus depreciation. That is with 4 buses outstanding. We did just get 2, and so that dropped it about $350,000, and that was just this last month. And then we should be getting another 2 hopefully next May or June. But yeah, so that looks like a large amount, but we have buses coming. Buses are just really, really far behind, and so it's not just stagnant there. And then Dan just mentioned the plant school district facility funds, and that $423,000. That is what we got last school year. So I was just referencing in my financial report the $500,000 we got this year. That's offsetting the levy. But this amount, since we didn't have a levy last year, it's there for us to utilize for our maintenance costs. And the board determined that $200,000 of that will help us this year, and then the other 200,000 will help us next year. We kind of spread that out over the 2-year levy as well. So those were just a few items I wanted to touch on as well. But any questions for Dan, or can I let him go? All right. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thanks,
We
Dan.
appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Third-year business managers, like they go to their second-year business managers, rarely have clean audits. Only because we have Carly Beaver that she does it.
We know. Grateful.
Well done, well done. Any other comments? Good. Move on to House Bill 5. Whoa.
You need a motion to accept
Oh,
that
accept the audit report?
Please, yes.
We have a motion to accept the audit
I
report.
move that we accept the audit.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Now, House Bill 521.
Carly again.
Oh, that's Carly again.
So we've been talking about the House Bill 521
21 for quite some time now, and so I think we've kind of gotten to the last little bit of it, and what the state is needing now, they have this program, it's called MAPS, and so when Rich Boucher came up and presented this facilities plan to us, and he went through it, he did a really nice presentation. He went through all of our buildings and said the goods and the fairs, and we talked about how the majority of our buildings don't have sprinkler systems for fires, and that's just kind of how it is. But so we took all of this information and put it into the MAPS program. And so what happens is, for example, if we take the CBE building, it gave us a spreadsheet that looks very similar to Rich's. It just is a little bit more in depth. And so for those that he didn't talk about, like technology, I picked Michael's brain on, and for the specialties, I picked our maintenance guy's brains on. And so we came up with all of these. Pretty much all of our interior doors we want replaced, and so we knew that was something that we talked to Rich about, and so we just went through all of this, and each building got its own good, fair, and poor report, which then spit out a ratings result. And so part of what Rich talked about in his presentation is if we get all of our buildings to quote-unquote perfect condition, it will be a very, very large number. Kind of so large that this is what the state is suggesting. And this is over, like, from right now through 20 years. And so it's talking about, okay, for those that were good, you're probably not going to replace them for 20 years. For those that are replaced now, it's the 0 to 5, and this was probably the poor column, and this was the fair column. But all of that being said, like over 20 years to get like perfect, it's like $173 million. Obviously, we know that's not realistic. That is literally putting a sprinkler system in every building. It's those items that I think every like insurance company would want you to have, and those types of things, but it's not realistic in our world. There's also items like partitions. Not all of our school buildings have those, but it still put it on there because it's like, well, you could have them. Or elevators or lifts. Not all of our schools need them, but we could have them. And so again, keep in mind that this number is very large, but it's not going to happen. And so with that being said, we put a ratings result to every single building, and
like this is GEMS, and so it breaks it down just a little bit more. And so we compiled the 0 to 10 year and put it into this 10-year plan for the state requirement. This is what's going to allow us to submit and get the House Bill 521 money, which is just about just over $4.3 million. And so again, we broke it out by building, and then it's a little bit of a smaller grouping. It's not every specialty broken out. And then we just kind of went through and said, okay, to try to keep each year about even, this is what it would look like. There were a few things like I knew GHS were looking at replacing the roof. And again, this particular specialty is the elevator. And that's because we have a kiddo that's going to be needing that soon. And so, and again, don't get me wrong, we're not going to do an elevator. That's just what they're thinking it could cost. We're going to do a lift, and it's only about like $27,000. So, again, it's just what the state's putting out there that they recommend, and our roof isn't going to cost $1.2 million. But anyway, so we broke it out per building, and so each of them have a total. And so this, along with the board's action item of either doing the lump sum or annual distribution, is the last item we need to send to the state to get that funding. I'll maybe let Mrs. Holthouse go into the lump sum versus annual distribution.
So there is another document that's coming along. It's a spreadsheet too, because that's what Carly and I communicate with each other every day. But in that spreadsheet, I've asked Ty to go through and itemize every item, and so that we have one repository for all of this information. So all of our roofs, when were they replaced last, so that we have a document that we can look at and look at our future and what we need. Those numbers given to us by the state, which is what's required, those are numbers that they use a general by square feet. So for every so many square feet, it's this, like you've heard carpenters say, I'm going to use a stupid number here, don't quote me on this. I can build that house for $110 a square foot, something like that. That's what the state gives us for these. And so, and then also on there are some things that might be important, that wouldn't necessarily be as important locally to us as other things that would be more important. Obviously, we want to keep the envelope of the building safe, and we want to be able to make sure that students can move within the building safely, like the lift instead of an elevator, making sure that that's safe and doesn't impact their time in the classroom. So another spreadsheet will come. Now, as far as the recommendation and the action that you're going to take tonight, is that you had the choice to take this lump sum of money, which was
$4.382
million. So $4.3 million. You can make the choice to take it in payments over 10 years, or you can take it in lump sum. I'm just going to tell you, money in my bank account working for me makes a whole lot more sense than money in the bank account of the state working for somebody else. So my recommendation is strongly that you ask to take the money in a lump sum, and that we control our money from the beginning and have access to it.
Is there any negative? Like, why would you get penalized?
I don't really know. I would say a majority of the districts that have already submitted have said lump sum.
I think all but 3, to be honest.
Right. As a matter of fact, the state was thinking they were going to take it in payments, and so they actually ran into bonding capacity issues, and they had to have numerous meetings to be able to set a bond high enough to be able to pay this money out, which they've gotten that all taken care of. So again, my recommendation is take it now, and then we control our money. I'm a big fan of that.
Also, the annual distribution would act like our school district facility fund. So it would offset our L2, it would offset the levy instead of going to these specialty projects that our maintenance, or that our buildings need for maintenance. So,
But either way, it's offsetting the levy because we're
then
gonna
you're
need
not
less money
using it
for the
on
facilities.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no matter what, it's $4 million worth of facilities work that we couldn't do in the past, or we would be dependent on a levy to do. So yes, you're right.
So it's like $400,000 a year relief that we can put towards facilities.
Yes. Again, our entire levy was not just facilities, but we have your first most important asset in the district is your students and staff. Your second most important asset in the district is your facilities, and you have to maintain them. And we have suffered through some deferred maintenance. Like, kudos to the maintenance guys. They make the 20-year last 40, and we really appreciate that. A 20 anything has been stretched out. We appreciate that, but we really need to maintain our buildings. And that's an action item.
We have a motion.
Does it have to be a special motion?
I just need a motion. Just clarifying, you're going to say.
Lump
the-
sum
or
lump
10 year.
or 10 years.
I move for House Bill 521 that we accept the lump sum this year.
Second. Any further discussion? Second by Larry.
Can we discuss real quick? Are we allowed to invest it?
Yeah, it'll go into our account where it'll make a decent amount each month, and then that's also just
It'll
more
be that
money
new
that we
account
can
with the 400,000 in it?
do.
Or is it a separate account?
It'll be a separate account,
Okay.
but it'll make still just as much interest, or more.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then can we get one for the 10-year plan as well?
Oh,
What do you,
The
Approving
10-year
the
plan
10-year
as
plan.
well?
Is that the sheet that
That's
you just
part of
went
the
through?
521 bill.
It's all
Is it?
521.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just components of the 521, the 10-year plan, and then the decision.
So do I need to say that too?
Yes.
Do I need to add that to my?
Just make another motion.
Just
Okay.
make another motion.
I move that we accept the 10-year plan as presented.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Policy committee is.
Okay, so the first thing that you have to clarify, and I apologize,
At the
the
meeting in
meeting in
Elk
Elk
City,
City,
you had said that you wanted 3 patrons on your policy committee. For some reason, when I started getting responses that people were interested in being on the policy committee, I apologize. In my mind, you had said 5. And so I emailed back saying, the board has said they want 5, we'll have a drawing at the meeting, so that wasn't clear. So are you good with 5, or would you prefer 3?
I feel like the more, the better. I'm fine with 5, it's still not that much.
No, I'm confused where this came from, the 5. This doesn't appear to be the document we had last month.
That's the one I emailed you and said that, remember I said I made a mistake?
This is not from the last meeting, though, is what I'm saying.
No, this is
Okay.
updated. That was, I updated it, put 5 there, and then I
Gotcha.
emailed you saying,
Okay.
oh my gosh, I made a mistake. You're
All right,
supposed
well, I'm in favor of 5.
to. Okay. So, do you have those emails?
No.
Oh,
So
I'll pull them out.
what's the total number of people
we
on the
had,
committee
and
now?
that's, the next thing I would like to do is I would like to,
9 now.
we had 9 people.
Now we're 11.
So now
11
there'll be
people.
11.
Thank you. First thing I would like to do is read their names, and I would like you guys to publicly thank them, because they volunteered to be on a policy committee, and gosh, I can't imagine. Yeah, so let me read the names to you. The first one is J.B. Meyer, and what I'm going to do is just fold it in quarters as I read it, and we'll put that in a box or something to draw out of. So that's J.B. Meyer. Do they have a box? We'll find one.
Mind the box.
on a bag.
Pamela Brasseth.
Benny's on it. He's looking.
Katie Toll. Aaron Price Smith. Sounds like graduation. Bonnie Meyer. Tiffany Cameron. Perfect.
Tiffany
Cameron.
for Tiffany shirts. Tiffany shirts, whatever.
Is her
fine.
email
Say
Tiffany
it's
Cameron?
probably your
I
maiden
get it
name.
from there. I
That's right.
apologize. Her email address is Tiffany
Yeah.
Cameron, but
That's
she
right.
is Tiffany Shirt.
Sorry.
Thank you for catching that. I want it to be right. Jennifer Harris. Katie Mosman. Malia McCulley. Elena Curtis. I was so thrilled how many there were. Melissa Lane.
That's a little
I know. I'm easily Easily made happy. Shaylena Harris. Karen Siren. Peter Schertz. And Laura Smith.
So
So-
before we do this though, go ahead.
You can ask questions before we draw.
Well,
I just really want to make sure we say thank you to the students.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, and before we do this,
Okay, so on this it says one representing Grangeville, one representing Clearwater Valley.
Oh, yeah.
How are we gonna do that if they're all in the same?
we're gonna make sure by the time we get to 3 that we have one of each, and then
Okay.
we'll make sure.
Okay, cool.
Let me get Skyward open so I can check
Great.
there.
And then,
Well, you guys know them. I think most of them all
can
know,
I
but if not, I'll
please
check
have
Skyward.
them so I can put them in record, please, after you get done drawing?
Have them.
Just that.
Carly, do you have Skyward open by any chance?
I do.
Can you check the addresses for me?
Yes.
I'd be so slow on my phone, I apologize.
Full on blind, I like it.
This is sort of like, who's gonna be missing there? You need one more, that was 4,
I think
right?
that's 4, you need one. It's you. Who
Yeah.
are you?
Well, we're only gonna read 3, so that we make sure we get one from both communities.
Okay.
Let's see where we're at.
Aaron Price Smith and
She's
Kuski.
Kuski.
Okay.
Aaron Price Smith, okay. Katie Told.
That's Grangeville, so we're
Katie
good
who?
then.
That makes it easy.
Told.
T-O-L-D-D, okay.
So we now have one from both communities, so the other 3 can be
Wonderful.
Wonderful, thank you.
Katie Mossman.
M-O-S-M-A-N,
That's 2 S's,
2 S's?
I believe.
She has one on her
Okay.
email.
Oh, is that
Okay.
right?
Ready? Melissa Lane,
Is it 2 S's or 1 S?
2 and 1, 2 in mine.
Oh, Melissa?
Jennifer Harris.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so just a little update on the policy committee. I'll reach out to those individuals. The administrator for this quarter, because as we said last month, it will rotate on a quarter basis, is Amanda Bush. The teachers for quarter 1 are Shar McKinney representing Mountain View, or Grangeville, excuse me, and Jenny Perry representing Clearwater Valley Elementary, or the Clearwater Valley. And then I will be on it, and then the 2 trustees are Trustee Edwards and Trustee Dunn. And so we will do these meetings twice a month. I'm hoping on a Tuesday or Thursday. I'll get that information out. They will be either virtual or in person. The plan is for them to start at 3:30 and end at 4:30 because I think we can be efficient. I can run an efficient meeting. And I will get draft policy out for them prior to so they can read it and come prepared with their thoughts for any edits or comments or changes that need.
Just occurs to me to ask, do we want to consider having an alternate for the board members? So we always have at least 2 board
Probably a
members?
good idea. Somebody want to volunteer?
Yeah.
Do you like Sundays? Can we fill in? Can we just fill in as needed?
And
Especially if
actually,
it's
I
Zoom.
don't know, if one person isn't there, we'd probably be okay. We're not taking action, we're just making recommendations.
Yeah.
So we're probably fine.
That'd be
If
fine.
someone were to have a change in life or whatever and need to let us know, then we could maybe find out.
Just thought.
Okay, that was a good idea.
All right.
I did. Where'd they go?
Moving on, do we need to make a motion to accept those?
Yes.
You want a motion
Thank
to
you.
accept that?
Well, we
We
have
have
the
the drawing.
policy.
We
You
already
had
have.
your action.
I think it's
And we
appropriate.
had our drawing, so no.
Yeah, you're
Because
fine.
last
We're
month
fine.
you
Make
said
the
you have a
record we're
drawing
done.
and you did
I
your
have
drawing,
your
so we're
drawing.
good.
Sounds
Yep.
great.
You're okay.
Next, funding letter to the legislature.
Oh, yes.
We have those 2.
Mr. Chairman, could I recommend that we combine 4 and 5, the letter and the legislative liaison concept, because they fit there.
Oh, yeah,
Side by
I
side.
guess we could.
Yeah.
Are we, well, we'll need to make 2 separate motions anyway.
Yeah, this is the conversation wise, I mean,
But yeah, that'd be just fine. So we just I put together a letter to the legislator just to show the community that we have their backs if they ever want to go talk to the legislator, and honestly, hopefully we can influence some legislators. I put together one, Trustee Dunn added to it, so if we can accept both of them, or one of them, or whatever we want to do. No, Lacey, you thought maybe we should just send one every month.
Yep.
That would be fine too.
I think we should.
The gist of the letter is just saying that they're asking for the state to fully fund education, not put it on the backs of local school, or small rural school patrons and through levies. Oh, it is up there. Magic, Carly.
Good work.
So you're thinking accept both of them?
We can, just to have it in our arsenal. Or we can send one out. The liaison will probably be in charge of a lot of that. John?
Looking at the 2 letters, I actually like the longer one because it's easier to read and points, directly to the different
That would be
items
just
in the
fine.
list.
So if we don't even need the shorter one, you get rid of it. That'd be
I
fine, too.
just think that the longer letter actually makes it a little clearer and easier and presents the points, and
Perfect.
and a point
Let's
by
go with
point
that
action.
one then. Well, you make a motion?
I'll make a motion to that effect that we move forward with the longer with the 2 letters.
Okay.
And have that go to.
Do you mind Carly putting that one up?
I don't think she doesn't
Oh,
have
here.
that one
Here.
electronically.
Can I give that one to you?
I don't know, can you?
Oh, that's not on the, oh, gotcha.
It's not
I was thinking she had it.
It's on email.
Okay, that's fine. Never mind.
Not that one.
He's gonna do something.
Work your magic there. Oh, just,
So you do have a motion on the table, yeah.
do we have a second?
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion?
I just also think another step we might take in this is actually supporting a policy that ISBA is already bringing forward to work on this further. So our district
Well,
might
should
want
we
to.
put that on the
Let's-
agenda? Can we put that on the agenda next?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead,
So
let's finish
just
our
remind me,
motion
and
here
we'll
now.
just do that.
Yeah.
That would be just fine. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right.
Yeah, he's gonna send the letter, no, go ahead and send the letter on that way, it's
Yeah.
fine, we don't.
We'll sign it here. Why don't you talk about the liaison while we're doing that?
yeah, thank you. This is item, what do we got, 5 here. Nearly 3 years ago when I got here, we had a legislative liaison, and that being a volunteer from the board who would be our, I guess would be authorized to speak to the legislature on behalf of the board for whatever issues. It was pretty broad, there wasn't much of a definition. We didn't appoint anybody last year. I am recommending that we reconstitute this position. My primary concern with having something like this is I think they need marching orders. I think we need somebody who has specific goals that the board wants them to work on, and I think this idea of us making as much noise and gaining as much influence as we can to get the school funding mechanism changed to get rid of levies is at least a co-equal with the highest priority that we have with respect to this issue. So if the other members of the board wish to reinstitute the legislative liaison position, we can talk about who that might be in a minute. It would be with the caveat that that would be their primary responsibility to work on this school funding reorganization.
So what made us not have this position anymore?
To be honest with you, I don't recall a specific conversation other than to say I recall suggesting that we needed to have, as I mentioned a minute ago, very specific tasks that we wanted to accomplish for the given year, so that everybody was on board with what we're having this person doing, since they're speaking for us as a whole. I thought it was important to do that. That's really the only part of the discussion that I recall. I'm not even sure it was a motion, because
Well,
it's
and-
not it doesn't appear in policy or anything. It's kind of an informal process where we're sending somebody out to do something on our behalf.
Yeah, there's really, I mean, like, I was that legislative liaison, and I realized that there's processes for these things to happen. And you can try to be a Lorax, speaking for the trees, but it's not effective. Like, you really have to go through the proper channels and join the proper procedures in order to make something happen. And so I think we can all do that through the ISBA and through speaking at legislative sessions that you sign up for, and just going down to the convention, which I think is the first or second week in November, and really joining these conversations. You have a couple of meals with the legislators yourself, and it's kind of a designated time to do what you want us, what that position would do. And it would be great because most districts have all of their board members down there and their administrator all together, and they can propose a united front. But when it's just myself or the superintendent, and I know everybody's busy, but it really is great when there's a united front down there. Tracy, your whole CAMI board goes every year. St. Mary's goes.
Most other boards go.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's
yeah.
a great time to really bend the ear of the legislators and to build relationships with them that then they can ask later on. They'll call you up and be like, hey, I heard this, is this true? And you can be the person that calls your superintendent or whoever and says, hey, is it true? And then that superintendent follow up with that legislator, and there's processes. It just can't be a Lorax. It's really inefficient. I tried.
What are you thinking?
I personally like the idea of having our own, agent that would work directly with the legislators, because I think we have more of a direct contact, more of direct influence, particularly when we can work with our local legislators, one-on-one. I think we have a couple pretty good ones there that work that well.
So what would be the primary mechanism of approaching the state? Like through letters, going down there?
Could be going
in front
down
of
there.
legislature, what's the?
When the legislature's in station from time to time, would be contacting, and being in touch with our legislators, when the session is not going on, and even during the session. But developing that one-on-one with our legislators, and then meeting other legislative people through them that would be, connecting, through the system.
But we can already do that as we are now. We can have those conversations in one-on-one relationships without having a liaison.
Well, true, but if we have a liaison, then that focuses it to a person that can carry this ball forward, and we're not, it's not getting spread out. We can still have, 5 people want to go down there and shake hands or rattle cages or, kick people in the shins. We can do that.
Well, we can assign any of these tasks to that person,
Correct.
I guess. I'm okay with that.
Ms. Edwards' comments are not inaccurate in the least. I don't see this as a one-dimensional process. Everything that we can do and anything that we can do is a help. Having a liaison doesn't prevent us from doing what she recommended as well. I do think that there's some benefit, as John mentioned, to having a single point of contact for such things, having somebody who takes on the responsibility for staying in touch with everybody involved in this. It's actually, depending on how deep you want to get in the weeds, it could be a lot of work. I guess I see this person as much a coordinator as I do a cheerleader.
How do we control what the people are saying on one-on-one conversations?
What do we need to control?
Yeah.
I mean, like, how do we know that when you're speaking for the board as 5, guess we would choose that position. But you would be speaking the voice of the 5.
Well, the idea would be to have some coordination ahead of time, especially in a formal meeting, but just the casual conversations. That's why I'm in favor of keeping a narrow scope and not talking about everything education, because then you do run into a problem of possibly dilution, I think is part of what you're suggesting. The other thing is we can both be talking about the same subject and have 2 different ways of saying it. We want to make sure, though, through coordinating, that we're getting the same message out ultimately.
Would we have that liaison like type up a statement that we approved every time they interacted with a state rep?
I would
What
think
would be our
that we
protocol
would
there?
have, what are our goals, what are we looking for? And that state legislative, liaison would be focused on those, 4 or 5 or 6, whatever, the main goals that we have as a board. What's important to us. It would also, one of the things that I have seen is that when you're relying on another group to pass information to you, there are times when that group doesn't view something as important when it is to the individuals that, us out here. And all of a sudden you get something come up behind you and it blindsides you because the folks in wherever, it wasn't a big deal for them, but when it hits us, it becomes a big deal because it does affect us directly. And then we have, already established relationships with our legislators that we can go to them and, it's a much easier conversation and much easier transition of information, in my opinion.
I also expect the liaison to report monthly during the board meetings publicly about what we're doing. That's another good way to keep organized about the messaging that we're putting out there.
Do other boards do this? Do other boards have legislative liaisons? Is this okay? Does Camia have one?
No.
Cottonwood?
I don't know of one. That doesn't mean that there isn't one. Can I jump in just a minute?
Yeah.
And Trustee Minow, I 100% agree with you that sometimes we give up our rights by allowing a group to speak for us. And too many Americans have fallen asleep at the wheel and things are not happening the way they should because too many Americans aren't paying attention. 100% agree with you. And I would encourage each and every one of you to get your legislator on speed dial. It's super easy to find their email address. It's super easy to reach out to them. About a week after I got hired here, I emailed all 3 of them and gave them my personal cell number and my phone number, my work number, and said, I really want to speak to you when you have legislation that has to do with education. Let me share my viewpoints with you. In my previous position, I did that a lot, and a couple of them would call me from the floor. Hey, Alyssa, this is what we've got, and I appreciated that. That gave me the feeling that they respected my opinion. They didn't always agree with me. A couple of times voted opposite of what I asked them to vote, but that's okay. I can respect that because we all can be different. I would encourage each of you, absolutely, reach out, contact them, email them. They like an invitation to coffee. They like an invitation to lunch, meet for lunch, not you buying them lunch. They want that because they want to hear from you. Absolutely, don't give that up. Also, as Trustee Edwards was saying, you have an organization for you, and I recognize that ISBA has taken some lumps in the last few years, and I'm going to say that I think it was a little unfair, some of it, because people misunderstood the process. They are a lobbying institution. That's exactly what they do, and they have a process. You were asked, I don't know if you were asked, boards were asked, I don't know if you got the message, to come up with things that you wanted them to carry to the next legislative session by July 1st. Those are called resolutions. They said, put forth resolutions. If you as a trustee group want something, and Mountain View School District should have put forth a resolution asking the legislature to appropriately fund education so that levies weren't needed. Not to outlaw levies,
to appropriately fund education so that levies weren't needed. That resolution should have gone forward from this board. It did not. July 1st was the deadline. But other districts have. And in a couple of weeks, they will have the meeting, Region 2 meeting of the ISBA, and they will go through those resolutions, and you'll have your opportunity to ask questions and give your opinion. It's an evening meeting, because then in November at the conference, that's when you vote on them. That's your lobbying body. That's how it works. And a couple years ago, ISBA took a black eye because they also have another service called the policy service, where they have attorneys take the laws that are changing, and those laws change all the time, federal and state, and they put forth policy for you. It is only draft policy. And then the board decides which policies they're going to approve or which ones they aren't. A couple years ago, they put forth some policy that met the federal law about gender neutral bathrooms. And some school districts were asleep at the wheel, like some Americans have been, and they just approved policies carte blanche. You will notice in the district I worked in, they did not, because that policy didn't meet the needs of the community there. So they didn't approve it because it wouldn't have been right there. Well then, when people found out that those policies existed and they'd been approved, it was backlash to the ISBA. I think it should have been backlash to the boards that approved them. That's my opinion, and I get to speak a lot of opinions lately. Anyway, so that's your other way. Now, as far as a liaison, absolutely. If one of you wants to be a specialist in finding out what's going before the board, what bills are happening, what's going on, who's talking, whether it's going to be left in a drawer somewhere or not, absolutely. If one of you wants to take on that work, just recognize that you are a gatherer and sharer of communication. You do not speak for the board, because you can't speak for the board unless it's been voted on and approved by the board.
Well, and I found that I was recreating the wheel that ISBA already had. Like, there's already 18 resolutions, and 3 of them are funding instead of levies. And if we wanted to co-sponsor them, we could do that as a board.
Absolutely, yes.
Well,
You missed the
the
July
liaison
1st.
may,
You haven't missed.
may bring that up to our attention in the future too, which would be okay.
Yeah, a liaison's not a bad thing. I also, every month when legislation gets into session, I'll give you an update on what has been going on. You and I might, if whoever the liaison is, if you have one, may think something is very, very important, different than I, because we're humans and we're going to notice things and it's going to be different for all of us.
If we do this, do we want to have like just a trial run, like for a year, or see how it works for us, for our board?
There's nothing offensive in shutting it down or tabling it like we've already done. I'm gonna recommend we table this till next month and
Think about it a little more? Sounds great. No action taken.
No, that's a different motion. Or, excuse me, it's not a motion.
Yeah, it's not a motion, you're just gonna do a no action.
No action, yeah, no action. Moving on to approval of special education manual.
Okay, the special education manual is a federal document. It hadn't been updated, 2019? 2018, it was kind of getting old. Finally, they came around to approve that document, update that document. It is here for you. There's a copy. Shar has it. We didn't print the copies for you because it's a lengthy document, but we are required to take action and either approve this document or not. It's what outlines the responsibilities for IEPs and Medicaid, those kinds of things. And it's. I think you were given a link to the document if you wanted to read it.
And since I gave that link, the state did make available a red line version, so if you wanted to see it side by side what got changed, you could do that. I can tell you that most of the changes deal with one specific category, specific learning disability, SLD, and it has changed drastically. Because of that, may I go ahead?
Absolutely.
Because of that, they are putting on trainings around the state. Our whole SPED department, everybody, all the certified teachers, will go next Thursday. The state gave us a $5,000 grant to offset the cost, to pay for mileage, to pay for subs. We can get reimbursement because it is such a major change on how we classify this particular category for specific learning disabilities. In case you don't know what that is, that might be somebody who only has a deficiency in maybe math computations, or it could just be a language, not a different type of disability, like a physical disability or a cognitive thing. This is a very narrow how they get qualified, but most people in SPED are in that category. So if you want to redline the link, I can get that out to you, and then you can look at both of them side by side. I do just want to give you, since I didn't get to give my report, I want to say I'm glad I'm here. I like my job. That as of today, we dropped a little bit on our SPED numbers. As of today, we are at 189 students that are receiving special ed services district-wide, and we are at 49 students district-wide that are on a 504 plan, so they're getting some type of accommodation in the classroom, but they are not on a full IEP. I told you we got a $5,000 grant. We have 5 referrals in the wings. We are starting our professional development tomorrow with, it's called ARIS 101, and it is specifically towards severe autism. And so the CV people, all the CV people, we will be doing training with that company. We purchased the program last year. I'm not sure when it was purchased, but we all need to be trained on it because nobody knows how to do it. And we have IEP training and SLD training.
Thank you. Shara, I apologize that we missed you on reports. My head was throbbing, and I totally, sorry about that. So, back to the manual, you approved it in August. They came out with their changes since then. So if you're remembering, didn't we do this already? Yes, it's because they changed it, and we have to reapprove it.
I move that we approve the special education manual.
Have a second? We'll look at it more.
Second's fine.
Second. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Yeah.
Pass. On to reconsidering St. Peter and Paul bus lease agreement.
Okay, so you approved a bus lease agreement with St. Peter and Paul. Idaho code says that if we transport students for a private school, we have to charge them. It doesn't delineate how we charge them, what we charge them, it just says that they have to be charged. Mountain View School District has charged St. Peter and Paul for $500 since, I really don't know when, I think it's been 12 years. Well, we all know prices have changed in 12 years. I'm not paying the same thing for anything now that I was 12 years ago. So Carly and I looked at modifying what we are charging, trying to come up with it. And there was no formula. So Carly and I like spreadsheets, we like formulas. And so we tried to come up with a number that would drive it and help it stay fresh so that we didn't run into a situation where it was the same charge year after year after year. So there are 383 miles that are transporting Grangeville students. St. Peter and Paul is in Grangeville, so it's just Grangeville students. So there's 383 miles that we transport Grangeville students. There are 149 days of school, so that's 57,067 miles. And then we have 830 students, yes we do, 830 students in Grangeville. So that gives us about 70 miles per student in a year. So that, I don't know, we came up with that number. Okay, what do we do with that number? Okay, well, let's charge them if we think that we transport students about 70 miles a year, let's charge them the rate that we charge kids, or we charge people when they rent a bus, $2.50 a mile. Great, it's $3,500. Whoa, we're not going to go from $500 to $3,500. We don't want to do that. That's a bit excessive. So then we looked at the the state. Is it federal or state? Federal allotment, which is 67 cents per mile, and that came up to $938. So we went, okay, that makes sense. Let's charge them $1,000. And then they replied, and then that was times 20 students. I missed that, so that ended up $938. So they were like, we don't have 20 students. Well, some years, last year I believe they had just over 20 students. This year they don't. It's less. So then we get into this, is it going to be a floating rate? Is it a whatever? I honestly, I feel like $1,000 is fair. My recommendation last month was $1,000. My recommendation is still $1,000. However, I have been contacted by Saints Peter and Paul to ask for you to reconsider that amount. So I've given you all my information that I have. If somebody has a good formula, I'm willing, I like a formula, something to drive that number.
I think the way you went about it is proper, and I agree with you.
It's $111 a month. Of school. They were saying they're taxpayers just as much as everybody else, so, but we also don't transport Cornerstone children. And so are we. I mean, I just think that
Well,
1,000 is
so
pretty fair.
the going rate's 67 cents a mile, but we charge the parents $2.50 a mile
So
to rent a
67
bus?
cents is what's per diem for reimbursing you for driving your private vehicle.
That's, yeah.
With $2.50 is the mile, is the amount the state figures for paying a bus driver, wait time, the bus, all of that kind of stuff. That, I should have clarified the difference in those two numbers. And that's an important number that'll come up in
Well,
conversation later.
and I think in all
activities.
actuality, it's $1.50, and we got charged an extra $1 because of wear and tear. Is what?
That's what it, that's how that number is it's like, it's supposed to pay for your, oil changes and your depreciation on the bus. That number's developed by the state, and it's high.
Does the bus, is the bus already going to these places?
These buses are already rolled, but we are required by law to charge them. We've been charging them $500.
Are the buses going out of their way at all?
In some cases, they have to go another half mile down the road to pick up on the farm, you know,
Yeah,
out in the
okay.
country.
So it's, but it isn't that much.
And they pick up and drop off at Grangeville Elementary Middle
Yeah.
School, so they're not having an additional stop in town.
Right. Boy.
I mean, if they divide it between the 12 kids, it's $83 for the school year to transport their kids to school.
Is this 938 for a year? For all year?
Yeah, all year.
Oh, yeah.
$1,000.
That's fine. $1,000. Okay.
You need a motion.
Do we have a motion?
Is it to update, to approve the updated one?
Just affirm, you're just motion to affirm, or deny, or change, whichever one you want.
$938 divided by
We already have the lease, so, right? We already have the agreement.
Not a signed one from them. Oh, that's, they've said, they've asked us to reconsider, that's why they didn't sign.
So moving to affirm if we so choose.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, $78 per kid a year to ride a public schools
That's what
bus.
it ends up being.
I think that's pretty fair.
Mr. Chairman, I move to affirm the agreement as signed off by us at $1,000 a year.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
I had our discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna go ahead and go with it, yeah, I'm in favor.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask that we switch item 8 and item 9 on the agenda so we can talk about 545 first, and then the activities transportation.
Let's move on to that. Policy number 545.
Okay, policy number 545 is is Mountain View School District policy, and it's policy that's been around since 1998 is when it was adopted originally, amended in 2007, and amended in 2010. It basically says kids who are going to sports activities need to ride a bus. They have to ride a bus or they can't participate. We're not doing that. We haven't funded transportation for our athletes. And so if we want to stay the course, this is why I've asked this to be switched around. If we want to stay the course, you need to suspend policy number 545 because we're not in compliance with that policy. And my job is to try to stay in compliance with all policies. That being said, you know me and you know I'm going to share my opinions, and I don't think that there's a student in school that's not worth $80,000. And I kind of feel like the Board of Trustees made they were in a difficult place and you made a difficult choice when you chose not to pay for transportation for students. And the idea, the goal was that those kids were going to get in the car with their parent, and their parent was going to transport them to games and events. But that isn't happening because parents are working and they can't get off work to go transport their child. And so reality is, in some cases, kids are getting with in cars with other kids, and they are driving to towns that on scary roads. I witnessed it myself 2 years ago. It made me very, very sad to see that a child drove another child that distance. In my opinion, you should fund athletics, or you should not fund athletics. You shouldn't piecemeal it. And so I'm going to I did some math here, dug into some numbers. Actually, I made Carla do the math, but that's okay. So looking at the activities expenses to pay for transportation is about $80,000 a year. To pay for transportation for athletics in the district is about $80,000 a year. There are, I think I said 64 activities. These are not just sports, but activities in the district. That's between high school and middle school, football, varsity, JV, basketball, varsity, JV, 9th grade, or C team, junior high A team, junior high B team, wrestling, softball, tennis, track. It goes on and on and on. I do have a number for you, 66 activities. So I'm going to make a proposal, and I'm for you. I would propose that every high school team pays $750. Let me back up a minute, sorry. Took the wind right out of that one. What's happening is that kids are riding in personal vehicles, or they're fundraising like crazy. They're killing our merchants and our patrons by fundraising to pay for buses that we have to charge $2.50 for. Because that's what we have to charge per mile if we're not running a route there normally. We can charge a reduced rate because of it's a normal route, but we're charging them $2.50. They're having to fundraise so much. It's not fair to our patrons. It's not fair to our business owners. And I believe that we have a solution. Yes, I have heard patrons for years say, my kids don't play sports, why do I have to pay for them? Well, there's a lot of reasons. My number one belief is it keeps kids busy and active doing something healthy instead of being out on the streets finding trouble, because idle hands are the devil's workshop. So it's $80,000. It's $80,000. I propose that we charge every middle school activity $500. So A squad pays $500, B squad of the basketball team, A of the girls, so the boys basketball team, boys basketball, JV, or C squad. So $500. High school, we charge them $750 per team. That would come up with about $30,000 for you. 30 out of that $80,000. That leaves $50,000. I propose you take that out of the Secure Rural Schools Fund. It is an appropriate use of that fund because that is Secure Rural Schools. And then I propose that in 2 years, when you have the levy conversation, you either fund athletics activities or do not fund them. Because you have your door so wide open to a lawsuit that it is scary, scary. Because when you put these children in a private vehicle and somebody has an accident, they are going to come back at you over it, and that makes me, and I'm gonna tell you, every single student in the district is worth $50,000 to $60,000 out of the Secure Rural funds. So I propose that because I really believe it'll take pressure off our patrons, it'll take pressure off our business owners, and I think of it, I'm sorry, I was raised on a farm and we all butchered pigs, right? And when you're cutting that fat off the pig, that's a good thing, right? But you get too far and you get into the meat and your dad's mad at you. You guys cut the fat and cut the fat and cut the fat, but I think you got into the meat. And I really think you need to rethink that plan. So you really have two actions here. First of all, suspend for policy 545 or keep it. And if you keep it, then make the decision to fund transportation out of our Secure Rural Schools Fund, charging each team at the middle school of $500 and each team at the high school $750. I said a lot.
A lot.
So you're saying activities like HOSA that might take 1 trip a year, and baseball who might take 8 trips a year would pay the same?
We kicked around trying to find a formula to charge each team based on how many miles they went. but really it comes down to every one of them has had to raise $750, so it won't be a hardship on any of those teams to come up with that.
Even the teams that, like Academic Bowl?
We
like,
don't have that.
just little things like that, I don't know, it just seems like, yeah, and I thought the number was bigger for transportation
Yeah,
than
it was
80,000.
like-
I thought it was like 120 or 140 last time we looked at that, and that was like 2 years ago.
In 18-19, it was 68,313, and 21-22, it was 67,307. Total fuel, this is total fuel in the school district, in 21-22 was $103,677. But that's fuel for our miles, our routes and everything. And then we have the COVID years, which are wackadoodle because we didn't have all the sports. And it was in 22-23, it was 79,000. In 23-24, it was 83,490.
But Alyssa, isn't HOSA and your, is it FFA? Those are reimbursable.
Yeah, some of them are. HOSA and FFA both are.
So in all actuality, they wouldn't need to pay,
Yes, they're not on the athletics list. I apologize.
but they have to, don't they pay?
They paid, I think they just paid their national dues.
I think they're just paying their dues. And
So
I'll take it,
$80,000
this is how
covers
much-
the entire district?
no, yes, for sports, for athletics.
Why did we think it was way more than that?
Well, you're talking, when you're thinking the 350 whatever, that's all your coaches. I'm talking, when I give you a number, this is transportation only. Your 385,000 is coaches and prevailing or trailing wages, football helmets, pads, painting not painting fields, gym floor maintenance, all of that.
So the 80,000 includes, sorry, go ahead.
No.
This is on top.
The bus driver?
This 80,000 would cover your drivers.
Everything.
Yes. And fuel.
And you do realize, like, wrestling goes, like, really long.
I know that.
Because I think I just donated to that. I think they're covered today.
John?
My personal opinion is that when we let, as was pointed out here, let the students ride with anybody, their good friend or whatever, there's a heck of a lot of risk there. Again, which could come back and bite the school district pretty hard in the butt.
And additional scary things that are happening is coaches who have great big hearts are renting things like 14-passenger vans and putting them in a 14-passenger van, which is likely the most dangerous vehicle to put anyone in. And they're doing it because they're trying to keep kids safe. They're doing it for the right reason. But they're putting, and then because they're the coach, they're our employees, so that risk stays right there in that loop. The safest place for a kid to be is on a big yellow. I say fund a big yellow.
So is this going to be, like, the kids are funding it now? Like, football would start and then everybody would just start getting busing?
We could make it act right now, and if any team has paid more than their $750, they will have to look at that and maybe play it case by case, because I don't want to get Carly into any trouble. We have to have the numbers line up.
The other question I have then is, okay, let's make this happen this way. How does that impact the overall budget for the school?
Thank you. I meant to say that. So you have enough money in Secure Rural Schools, and we'll get another allotment from Secure Rural Schools. It will not spend the fund balance down. It will not spend that other account that I'm thinking of right now, forest funds down.
Yeah, okay.
No,
But
it
wait, I
comes from
thought
Secure Rural
I
Schools.
thought we were taking this money from each activity to fund this.
Partially.
Partially.
30,000 of it.
They'll be 30,000. When they pay their $750 each and their $500 each, that would come up with 30 of the $80,000. The balance would come out of Secure Rural Schools.
So then the students themselves pay to be part of the activity or they have a fee for
Right,
participating?
they
in
have
the-
a participation fee anyway.
Yeah.
Which is
And then each team would have to come up with their portion of transportation
Right.
on top of that.
What if they like got like one away game left?
Right, I mean, like,
I know, I couldn't make this happen any earlier.
I know, but.
I mean, like, what if they only have just a couple away games left and they're not very far away?
Or maybe we just start this in October when we have a split in a new season of sports.
And I
I
don't
think that
disagree with
there's,
this.
November.
I think there's
Sorry,
a
I
couple of
don't.
teams, we could wait between fall and winter sports, however, there's a couple of teams that are gonna have more than $750 of expenses between now and the end of their season. I think they'd want us to do it now.
I'm just saying they wouldn't pay for it. That
Oh.
sport wouldn't pay,
Yeah.
because they've already missed that
Well, that's
opportunity.
gonna cut into your 30,000 that you're gonna recoup from the kids.
But we won't have that expense either, because we won't be busing them.
Yep.
Carly?
So the bus activity sheets since the beginning of the year have not come through to the activities yet. They have not been charged to them because we normally do that at the end of the season. And so I mean, we could still capture that. So for whoever raised the funds already, they could again have that discussion of, okay, if it's over 750, do we want to reach out to who donated and see if they would like partial of it back, or if they want to
leave it there for, hoodies. Weird example, I don't know. But I'm just saying, nothing's been charged yet to.
And you, I'm gonna clarify this. A varsity costs $750, a JV costs $750,
Nope.
and a C squad $750. So
500 for the
Yeah,
other
if they're a high school team, each team would be $750.
Just
If
the
they're a
team?
middle school, yes.
Okay.
Well, varsity is, thinking of, that's a terrible word to use this team. Varsity squad would be
Okay.
$750. JV squad would be $750. C squad would be $750.
And then junior high,
And then junior
500.
high would be $500.
So like $2,100 for a team.
A full, if they have an ABC, of
Or-
varsity,
yeah.
JV, and a C.
It'd be really helpful to have this in writing.
No.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
Your motion would probably, I didn't make your motion.
So let's use the word squad instead of team. High school squads would
And
pay
if they
$750.
choose not to do it this right now?
If
I mean, like, what if they don't want to pay $2,100 for 2 games left?
And if I can add on to what Ms. Myers is talking about, if we choose not to suspend 545, then we obligate ourselves for your interpretation. And what if they choose not to?
Okay, so you've got board policy that says they can't choose, but financially, Carly, I believe, just said if they've had 3 games already, the $750 would cover their entire season.
Does that make sense? Because it hasn't been paid
It hasn't
yet.
been billed yet.
Oh, okay.
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 And the
So-
fundraising money that they fundraised for those,
Would
those
stay in their account,
transportations would stay in their account.
So they haven't been billed for last week's game or 2 weeks ago's game.
Okay.
I'd love to see more details on the finances, but I don't know.
I'm okay with putting kids on yellow buses and sending them to go sporting
Yeah, if we can
events.
make
I'm
that
okay
work,
with
that's
that.
fine.
Yeah.
So wish we had something ready.
So this is what I did for our budget here, and then the top line is our secure rural schools. And so that's what we have budgeted for our revenue is the 3.5, and then we took the 2.4 and we put it in that reserve account that Dan kind of talked about, like those 2 months. And so that's what left us, but then we also budgeted for the year about $300,000 for curriculum. And so there is still an ending balance of $800,000 in secure rural schools that does not have a designation for this year.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
If that helps.
And I appreciate the fact that you would like some numbers. I've been chasing these numbers, I
Oh,
assure you,
yeah, I
for a
can
while.
see.
Because you have to dig into things and then dig another time and then.
So I'm just gonna, just because, you know, I went to school at CV one time or another. If they've already had 3 games, they're only gonna pay $750, not $750 for varsity, JV, not $2,100.
No, they're paying $2,100.
If they've already had 3 games?
Yeah, because that $2,100 is going to the games that they've already had, because that transportation hasn't been billed out yet.
It's a one-time fee, but at the beginning of the year of $750. I realize they only have one game left, but they've already traveled and they haven't been billed for that yet. So
They
that,
didn't use a bus.
Oh.
That's right.
okay, I didn't,
Oh,
most
yeah.
of the teams in Grange, and I thought in the district
We do
actually
not
had gone
use
a bus.
very many buses, and maybe Mr. Hutchins does.
Oh, yeah, he might be able to help.
Mr. Chairman, can you call him?
Yes, I would like you to.
I didn't know he was back there.
I mean, we only have 3 away games this year, Potlatch, Logos, and Camii, and that's only
Only
gonna
gonna run me,
we've
we've already gone to Potlatch and Logos, and that was about $1,100, and going to Camii will cost like, what, $100? So I mean, you know,
So
I
you
mean.
paid, you've already encumbered $1,100 in transportation.
Well, I mean, I've already, it's already been I mean, the sheet's been turned in, it obviously hasn't gone through yet, but I mean,
So you did take a bus?
I always do for football, because I'm not putting my players out on the road with God knows who. I mean, I won't do that. I always do buses every year.
So
They
why would-
fundraise for
so-
buses.
Right.
Yes,
Yes.
fundraise for
Yeah,
buses.
so he's fundraised and
Yes.
he has money in his account, and he has expended $1,100, but we would now only bill him $750.
Right.
If
Go to
that's all.
Camii.
It wouldn't even be
So
no,
it's
no,
more beneficial.
for the whole year.
Yeah.
For
That's for the season.
Can I,
For the
can I,
season.
only away game we have left.
Yeah.
No more going away. It's just been filled.
So in
No,
essence,
but they
in
won't go on
essence, what
bus,
they're
they'll go
saying
right
is,
there.
if it might add a different way, what's been done would be just backdated, you know, like, that would be covered within the 750. They've already taken it, and they can't go over that cap of 750. So if they've traveled, what they're looking at is 1,100 in expenses when they're done, with the travel and with what's existing left, but they will only pay the 750. So they're getting 400 bucks back for that team.
But it's 3 teams.
It's 3, yeah.
So it's 7.
JV
That's the varsity.
when they go JV competitions, if that bus for that sport, but you guys are kind of talking apples and oranges to me a little. But softball, for example, we didn't have a JV, not enough kids in it, so, you know, so they're accounting for, their majors, their 66 are accounting for a team like softball at Clearwater Valley High School that didn't have it. So that team, no matter if the girls played in every game or didn't hardly play, that varsity's only getting 750. So what Alan's speaking to right now is just 750 for the varsity games. If he has JV games that he travels to, he's gonna have to put some money for those ones as well. I'd like to speak to some of those smaller competitions, you know, like HOSA and BPA, if those were included in there. Most of those are at, the state competition is at Boise, you know, so you're gonna, the 750 is in the best interest of a BPA competition, because that's $1,000 right off the top just to get to the place, you know, so some perspective, if you got 3 teams and you're looking at the 2,100, that's probably a big Grangeville conversation. We barely have C team at the volleyball level here at our school. That's the only team that I know that has a C.
Over here, Vinny.
Yeah, I've got JV players, but I don't have any JV games. I mean, my JV guys will play like 3 fifth quarters this year, but we don't travel to JV games. I mean, I don't have a big enough squad to have a full JV to travel for a whole schedule. We just don't have those numbers.
So instead of billing football $1,100, we would only bill them $750.
It's in our small school best interest as been proposed here that way. Grangeville, I don't know, but most of our teams would happily, wrestling's an anomaly because they got a good parent fan base and they go to those things, you know, but in most of ours, you know, our parents and coaches are grinding it out, flipping burgers and you know, like really working hard to get this money, to get these kids safe and on the roads. And it only takes one drunk driver, and it's not our drivers. That's one way I'll say it, kid.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we
policy
keep policy
545 and
So,
follow the superintendent's. I mean, we don't, do we even need to do anything with 545?
I don't think you need to do anything with 545.
Okay.
If you're gonna keep it, there's
Just do a no action taken
Okay,
on
no action
545.
on policy, yeah, on number 9.
Okay, so
Okay.
hang on.
I'd like to, one thing, I would love to see more of the details on the finances on what it's gonna impact. Yeah, again, you guys did fundraising this year, you got money in the bank already for that, and, so it's gonna, you'll be able to save a few bucks, maybe pass it along to next year,
Right.
or whatever, but,
I will ask the administrators and the athletic directors to get together and give us kind of some details about how this.
yeah, cause it's, you know, that's really getting into the weeds, and I don't think we need to do that here, but I'd love to see a review of that.
Yes.
On either?
I'll ask them to do that.
Yeah, on the policy, yep.
All right.
No action
Now
taken.
jump up to the other one.
The parents would appreciate that.
So do we have a motion on the table now?
Not yet. I need a motion.
So for number 8, I move that we reinstate activities transportation
With a fee
following
of
the superintendent's guidance.
With a fee of $750
With a fee of $750 for the high school and $500 for the
each middle school squad.
middle school squads.
So would you like me to repeat that motion for you?
That would be great.
Move to approve the funding for the activities transportation, each junior high squad $500 a year, and high school squad $750 a year, and the remaining balance would come out of the secure rural schools funds.
Great.
Second.
Second?
That
Any
is a
other discussion?
mouthful.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was
Thank
that,
you.
did you do the second?
That's what's right.
Okay.
All right, moving on to value statement.
Yeah, I'm good.
What more can be said?
What can be said?
I move that we accept the value statement draft 4.
Sounds good.
I'll second
Give a
that.
second. Any other discussion? All in
Who
favor?
made the motion? Hang on.
Wait, there's discussion.
Oh, there is discussion.
Who made a motion?
I made the motion.
Bea made the motion, Larry seconded it. And discussion.
I just have like a few things to torment you with, Larry. So in doing a little research on traditional American values, which these are not things that I don't believe in or that I don't, but I feel like these are on personal levels and not in a public school setting. And I found a few. And the definition is unity, individualism, equality, self-government, liberty, and diversity. Which I'm pretty sure with our anti-DEI, I see equality, diversity, and it doesn't align with our mission statement of educational excellence for all. So in my mind, not that I don't agree with this, I just don't feel that I can stamp my name on it.
It's fair. Any further discussion? Tried to tame it down a little bit. I took some heat for this. I took some heat.
Take heat for everything,
Oh my
Tyler.
goodness.
Thank you.
But
You
anyway,
can't win.
I toned it down to enough that I'm comfortable with it. But, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain?
Nay.
Nay? Nay. All opposed.
So, motion carried 4-1.
Sounds good. Open meeting law.
And, Mr. Chairman, if I can, with your consent, I'd like to join 11 and 12 together. Mr. Menow and I asked to have this put on the agenda because what we'd like to do is to schedule a workshop with the board to go over these two items. I go back to something I learned when I first got here, and that was our policy with respect to Robert's Rules first. One, the policy, and I'm not suggesting we change policy, I'm just telling you what it says we may use Robert's Rules of Order. And policy also only then specifies one aspect of Robert's Rules, only one thing that we will do under Robert's Rules, and that is that the chair cannot make a motion. Other than that, It's all wide open. Madam Clerk, could I borrow your book for a second?
Sure.
This is actually a small copy of, volume-wise, of Robert's Rules of Order. I imagine it's concise, simplified. Okay? All I'm suggesting we do is we get together. There has been a couple of times, it didn't cause any problems, but there's been a couple of times where we've had some disagreement over some procedural rule or whatever, and I just think we need to get some basic guidelines regarding Robert's Rules if we're gonna use them, because there are so many. Where do you start and where do you end? That's all I'm looking to do with that. With respect to open meeting law, it's been the subject of discussions almost every meeting for most of this year. A lot of it around the forums. And all I'm suggesting is that we all just get together and have a relatively informal discussion about open meeting law so that we're all on the same page with respect to emailing, with respect to communicating, with all due respect. For example, I disagree with the clerk's interpretation of the open meeting law with respect to emails, that sort of thing. So let's just air it out. And so my request, I'll just put it this way, I guess, with respect to these two items, is I'd like to make a motion to schedule at everybody's best convenience a workshop to discuss these two items as
I don't think you need a motion, though. I think just set a
to
workshop.
schedule a workshop?
Yeah, just schedule
Are
a
you sure?
workshop.
And it's not business of the board, it's just a
Yeah.
meeting, so.
Yeah, oh, sure, you bet. We could zoom to that, right? Probably, somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I might do that.
Zoom.
Save myself $30 in gas.
Are we in the Zoom meeting?
If you don't think we need a
Would you-
motion, then
would you
okay,
like
let's
to
schedule a
have-
workshop.
The workshop prior to your October meeting?
It doesn't matter to me.
That
I'm
would
I'm probably
reduce
more flexible than most, so.
travel? Does that work for you, Trustee Meyer?
I work every day, so.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna be able to make it there?
No, I'm not gonna make it there, unless you wanna do it on a Sunday evening.
Well, I was saying if we did it prior to the October meeting,
If we
but
did it
what
at-
time do you get off work?
How long would you think this workshop would take?
That is gonna be a long day.
We can also just ask ISBA.
Yeah.
Well, I
what
mean,
else
because
does.
we're gonna have,
Easily a day.
if we have this workshop or whatever you call it, and then our regular meeting, and then the deconsolidation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
I
follow.
forgot
That is
about
gonna
that.
be,
What if
that is
we
gonna
did,
be
what if we
long.
did it like,
There are two entities in the state of Idaho that have avenues for supporting that kind of a conversation and guiding that kind of, I don't know that I wanna say guiding, that's inappropriate. There are two entities that provide support for that conversation. One of them is Idaho School Board Association. They have an educational specialist that they send out. And then Idaho School Administrators Association also has one. Both of them, I've heard both of them speak, they're really good, and I've watched both of them facilitate a workshop, and I have felt we're good. If you would like, I can reach out to them and see if they're available and when they're available for some possible dates, or if you wanna do it on your own, that's
With all
your
due
call.
respect, I think that sounds like money that I'd rather not have to spend. I'm not talking about getting into the weeds.
So the
with-
state of Idaho provides you with funds for
I know
professional
that. It's all still
development.
taxpayer money, miss, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, tax
Okay.
dollars are tax dollars.
So anyway, I'm just saying, I
Every
don't wanna get
district
into the
gets it.
weeds with respect to that. I just want us to come to a better general understanding of these concepts. And if we choose, and we may not, with respect to Robert's rules, some organizations will adopt basic rules, 8 or 10 that we will use so that everybody's comfortable with the language. That's just kind of where I'm going with this, and I'm not looking for an in-depth PhD level stuff here. I'm just
So
make
who
sure.
will be guiding this discussion?
Us,
Blind leading the blind?
not me.
I think that sounds like a waste of time, I'm sorry, but if we're gonna go through this and really we need somebody who knows open meeting law and Robert's Rules of Order. Otherwise, it's just a lot of talking,
That's true.
and I don't have,
That is true.
none of us have time to waste.
That is true.
And I'm
I don't
not
wanna
saying it's a
waste any
waste,
time.
it's a waste if there's
I-
no
I-
direction or leadership,
Wait, I
or
can't
like
talk to two
legal
people.
input.
Can we just have a trainer come in and do like the workshop like we did just a couple years ago?
Aren't we required to do some sort of training?
Yeah, like
Well,
every year we're
and
supposed
just
to.
to clarify, as I said earlier, if the Idaho legislature allocated money for every school district for Board of Trustees training. And so, while it's still a tax and people still pay taxes no matter what, in my opinion, bringing that money and spending it in our district as opposed to some neighboring district spending it.
And making us more efficient and more legal?
But that's entirely up to
You
you.
might be able to even get more school boards to come and join that evening.
You could make it a multiple.
Oh, yeah.
school
That'd be
board.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that actually might be a better effective tool.
Now you might have my approval for that.
Different ideas.
Do you wanna do a no action and
Do you
have
wanna-
Alyssa look at talking to them?
Yeah, I just wanna get it moving.
It's in the back of our mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll send an email.
No
tomorrow.
action
I'm not
taken.
gonna do, no, I'll just put.
Are you, look, can you
guys are
share
wanting-
with me who you would see as neighboring districts? Cami,
Riggins,
Riggins,
Cottonwood.
Cottonwood.
Cottonwood?
Orfino, you wanna go
Craigmont.
that far, or just the
Sure.
closer ones?
Craigmont,
Or
Okay.
whoever wants
Nez
to.
Perce.
As
Yeah.
far out as Orfino all around?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
why not?
Fine.
Okay.
Blackway,
I like that,
Craigmont.
that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can, sometimes.
Are we good with that?
Where are we at?
Deconsolidation, and we can just, I would say let's just let's cover these bases, but it doesn't have to be in a certain order.
I think you'd be safe covering each base, each one just has to be motioned separately.
Yeah.
You could probably talk
That would
about all
be-
of them at the same time.
So we need to, as a board, decide where we want to put Elk City if we do decide to deconsolidate. We have a map, we have one map that's already made where Elk City is with Kuski. If we change that, we are going to have to get new legal descriptions and all that kind of stuff, and a new map and everything. And I would love to follow your lead.
Okay. One of the facts of life is that so many of the kids from outside Grangeville, if they wind up in Grangeville, they are looked down upon by the students in Grangeville. There's problems with bullying, there's problems with other things that happen. And, out here, the kids in Elk City, I think, are a lot more comfortable from what I've heard down here than they are in Grangeville.
Oh, in addition to that, I mean, again, I'm gonna take your lead. Ted Lindsley put together a petition of people who wanted Elk City to remain with Grangeville versus Kuski. I think there's 58,
No,
58 signatures.
I want to clarify, the signatures on that have not been verified as people living within that boundary. I don't know what their petition protocols were, where they collected names. There may or may not be names that are duplicate. I have no idea. That was simply what was turned in.
And I actually requested a survey versus a petition, but this is what we have.
When you made the decision to go Elk City with Kuski, was that a landmass? Was that like a value,
Well-
financial decision?
Financially, I thought it was, well, why don't we see five? Skip Brandt put it together first, and I agree with him. By putting Elk City with Kuski, you have more taxable property per student, and that is a benefit to what would be the new, what we call, the Clearwater District or whatever, as far as if any levies were run or anything like that. They have fewer students, but then that would give it an advantage as far as taxable property. So, given that they're the smaller schools, I would like to do everything to help them. Because Grangeville has numbers, they have the advantage of numbers. I would love to give Elk City and Kuski the advantage of property values. That's my thinking, but that's, I mean.
And what was the basis of the petition that was signed? What was their reasoning?
They are afraid, they are afraid that if a levy
There's a
is
statement?
needed, and it does not pass, they will shut Elk City down.
There was also another statement made about how we're not gonna care about the kids in Oak City.
Who's we? Who's we're not gonna care? The
Now-
school board?
Yeah,
Kuski.
Kuski's not gonna care about Oak City. They're gonna be much better taken care of by Grangeville.
And traditionally, Elk City's had more ties to Kuski, like principals and everything like that. So they have more traditional ties too. So
Have we asked what the parents want? I mean, I guess it's the taxpayers.
One of the questions, that again, needs to maybe be asked and talked to them about, or actually talk to parents of students who have gone the other direction, what their experiences have been. Again, what I said earlier is hearsay. There's nothing really official to it, but again, it's one of the things that people from Elk City and the valley out here, when they get into Greenville, there's a very distinct difference. And you see it in a lot of different places in a lot of different ways. There's some community groups. There's a community group there in Elk City, in Grangeville. There's a community group down here in Camille. Huge difference in that. The group down in that we're familiar with, that's down here in the Camille area, is much more together. They work together a whole lot better, and they're just very much more engaged than the group in Grangeville. Even though there's a lot more people live in Grangeville than down here. It's just the difference in the type of people. You wind up with families and people out in this area or Elk City that are very independent. Of course, Elk City's even worse that way. You know, they just sort of do the things they like to do, and they look after each other. You don't see that in Grangeville nearly as much. It's there, but it's not to the same degree.
Yeah, and I've said this before, that the economies are more tied to the forest, to
Yes.
timber in Kuski and Elk City versus agriculture up in Grangeville. So culturally, they may relate better, like you're saying.
And I think that's a consideration, but when we're really looking at how they can support themselves, right? And I think that we need to set them up for the best support, and I think them having each other might be, it just kind of makes sense financially, and
Yeah, and outside of, if we didn't have a levy system, it would probably make the most sense, period, right, to have them together. I think Elk City School is just worried that a levy won't pass, and that might be a problem.
And
I don't know.
Again, I'm not entirely sure, you know, what Ted's, basis was that he was looking at. I've been gonna talk to him about it, but I just haven't done it.
And again, with open enrollment, any kid from Elk City could go to Grangeville anywhere.
Sure.
So they could go either way.
Sure.
Doesn't matter.
I think these people are just worried about the vote with the levy. But it's not like
I think-
Grangeville is a solid yes.
No.
I mean, they weren't either, so I don't think either way that should be, those are both on rocky ground, so I don't think that should be how we decide this.
You got the zones up there.
So it'd be zone
it's
2
kind of-
and zone 4.
Can you get some layers off of there?
Be up in the, right,
Get rid of the trustee zones. You can. There you go.
Just clear the other ones.
Oh, gotcha. Trustee zones. You can't get rid of trustee zones 244?
You don't wanna see the trustee zones.
I would say you get rid of that. Like, it just kind of confuses.
244, the next one up. There you go.
Well,
That's pretty close.
Oh, there.
oh, this is the existing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Well, I have a paper map, which is here, and actually, you had,
I have a link to it.
there's a link to the,
Yeah.
let's
You
do
want
the
it?
let's do the new proposed map. Do you have that link?
Actually, I think they used to.
Do we?
You can
just
email that to.
Yeah,
or
let
she
me
can
just
hop
email.
over.
Let's see here.
I thought I had it in an email from you too, but I don't.
Is this the one? I just emailed it to you.
Oh, you got it, thanks.
Well, maybe if it's not.
I mean, but ultimately, this will be up to the patrons to decide, even after we do all the work.
Right.
Yeah.
I found it.
How does that look?
Okay,
It says for
I just emailed you the link to the proposed one too.
Sorry, I didn't anticipate putting this up here, but it's great that you have it. Is that not working? It might have been changed. Well, I can, here. Let me get you here's a hard copy.
Is it that one?
There you go. There's a hard copy.
You want to hold it up?
So even splitting it, the new Clearwater district would probably still be the largest district in the state.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still
So you
huge.
can look at it.
It's huge.
Purple would be the new district.
Purple would be the Clearwater Valley.
If people were interested. I shouldn't.
Maybe like 5 more seconds.
Anyway.
Okay.
That would be.
So basically all the way to Bergdorf,
It's a lot of landmass.
Dixie, Elk City, Tuskegee, Powell.
So do you have the numbers of the values? in
Yes,
those
the
two
values
zones?
would be, and gosh, that interactive map would actually help, but as far as values. So, if CV and Elk City remained we kept them together, there'd be $704 million worth of taxable property. Grangeville would have $886 million worth of taxable property.
How much was the first one?
704.
704
Million.
704 million. Yep.
And how many kids are in each?
So I just went off last year's numbers.
Okay.
823 students in Grangeville, and there would be 319 with CV and Elk City combined. So you can see that it would be about 2.2 million per student with the CV and Elk City, and there'd be about 1 million per student of taxable value per student in Grangeville. So
What's
that gives the new district a little help. Yep.
You didn't happen to look at like population base, like what the population would be in there versus?
Oh, I don't have that. It's actually on the interactive map.
I thought I saw part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Of course you did.
Population per census? Yeah, there you go. 4,600 in the new district.
That's Salmon Harbor.
No, it says
Sorry, not this, this.
the right side.
5,000? 5,900, is that what you're saying?
4,600?
4609.
Okay, where are these people at?
In the hills.
Are they hiding?
Yeah.
I guess so. And then in the
How many of them are property owners?
6649.
6649 in the Grangeville one. Yeah,
How many parcels?
it says there.
68 and 52, did it say 52?
Number of parcels, 68, 66.
And 5939. That's how many properties? Right?
That's how many separate parcels,
Yeah.
because somebody may own a bunch of them.
Right.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
I prefer this as well, but I mean, it's up to you. Again, I will follow your lead on this. What do you guys think? I think to move forward, we have to decide what we're gonna do with this, so. John?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to move forward with that plan as has been presented here with the Elk City and Kuski together. It does a split with, that's comfortable, I think, in my opinion, both financially as well as, people and so forth.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Yeah.
Hold on, hang on, I'm not there.
All right.
And
We'll slow down, we'll slow
while
down.
you're doing that, I just want to clarify, you're making a proposal to move forward. You're not
Moving forward,
approving
correct.
a final map or
Correct.
any such thing.
Just move forward with it, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Move forward with it, yeah.
With the map?
That is correct.
Thank
Still
you.
love you, Larry.
I'm just,
Still love
had a couple people come to me about approval of maps. I'm like, that didn't happen. They
No,
approved
no.
moving
This is
forward.
all
Move
just
forward
moving
with it.
forward.
But we
Move forward with it.
need to present we need to have something to present.
So what, can we go
October
back up
17th.
to
Yes.
what motion is on the table for where?
Well, we're gonna propose moving forward this map tentatively. I don't know what should we
Elk
say?
City going with the Clearwater Valley.
Oh, the inclusion. Okay,
Yep.
so is the motion on the table to have Elk City give me the motion, please. I need a
To
motion.
move forward with the deconsolidation with Elk City joining the Clearwater group down here as the new Clearwater district, or whatever it's going to be called.
We had a second from Lacey, is that?
Yeah.
And I just want to discuss real quick,
Yeah.
we just have to look at numbers.
Yeah.
When we're doing this, emotions aside, happenstance, hearsay, assumptions, not, who's to say that either levy will ever pass or that we'll ever have another levy?
Or if we may not even deconsolidate.
Right.
That's right.
We may
So
not
that's
even.
right.
I mean,
For the Elk City inclusion, for the deconsolidation to join with Clearwater Valley.
yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
It would be, let just make one comment, would it be possible to get numbers, are they summarized somewhere that you'd put together with proper?
Yeah,
values?
so like I've sent you a link.
Oh,
I
did
can,
you?
I can
Okay.
resend it to you. It'll go to this here and you can go through all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'd
Land
like to do.
value.
It might be good for us to
numbers.
show that summary though,
Yeah.
like to actually put numbers
right.
out to people on why we made that, you know what I mean? Like,
Instead of clicking back and forth, have it, like.
and people trying to use a GIS map, yeah, it would probably be best
I can see it on
to
my.
just.
You got to it.
I
Good.
can see it, I zoomed in to my property, I saw
Okay.
all of that
Okay.
on your district website.
Great, thank
Good.
you.
Just do it. All right. So, as far as the mapping fee in this courthouse is gonna charge us $500 for that, which is a steal of a deal.
Yeah, cheaper than
If
GIS.
you're okay with that,
Yeah.
I would ask that we make a motion to pay that fee and
I move that we pay the Idaho County Courthouse mapping fee of $500.
Second.
Who seconded? Thank you.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We already have the legal description, well, we already have the legal description for the new county, or for the Clearwater, proposed Clearwater. We may have to get a legal description for the remaining, Rangeville one. So if there's a description fee that comes up, which would be like, I think Skinner did the last one, if they have another fee, I would like to be able, to have them be able to pay that.
How much was the last fee? 1,200, 1,500?
I'm not sure.
For surveyors? Yeah, legal surveyors are usually.
Yeah.
Carly, do you happen to remember what the fee was for the?
Usually surveyors are like $6,000.
I don't know, and I mean, we can,
That's okay, you can have one night.
Can
we cross that road when he gets here?
Well, could we do it no more than?
we could do it no more than, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yes, do it no more than. And I would suggest, when you make your motion, that you include a legal fees for trustees zones.
I know, but I hear.
So you
Oh,
have-
and legal fees for
No,
trustee
it's
zones, because we
3,500?
will have to, if we do this, we'll have to make trustee zones for the new district as well.
Right.
Correct.
And that'll come from the surveyor or Barbara at the
Barbara,
GIS?
courthouse.
She's way cheaper than a surveyor.
Yes. They've helped us a lot. Yep.
Well, legal description fees shouldn't be.
Should we have a budget for legal description fees?
Not to
and
exceed.
We don't
And
know
that-
that we're going to have to, this is just.
We don't even know if we, yeah, if we have them.
Did we budget for any of this for this year? Can we just cross the bridge when we get to it?
Do you want
Or
to
no?
not to exceed?
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta move forward,
I
because
would
we're not.
suggest you
No, that's
do-
fine, I just thought we could do it,
Like
but yeah, then
1,500?
we'd have that bill.
She's
Yeah.
saying 35.
No, 35?
100?
Yeah,
This is gonna be a lot cheaper than the first time around, when we paid like, what, 14 grand back in?
Right.
Back in 2006, which would be equivalent of what today?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a lot cheaper than that.
Yeah.
I mean, if that gives you peace of mind, I don't know.
So we're creating a legal description, and we might have to do legal descriptions for all 10 trustee zones, or would there be 8?
So you just can't have the associated legal description.
I think just associated legal
Associated,
description.
make a motion for the associated legal description fees not to exceed.
I move that we agree on no more than $5,000 for,
Unless, yeah, we can do that, and then if we gotta come back to the board, that would be great.
Yeah.
that should cover it.
Should cover it.
And
It's a
what
start-
what
it's
are
a
we gonna
start.
take that out of?
So is your motion to approve the associated legal description fees for deconsolidation not to exceed $5,000? Is that the motion
Yes.
you're
That's
making?
correct.
And mapping
Is that
fees.
okay?
And mapping fees?
Yep, both of those together.
Okay. hang
That way that, you know, the district has leeway to do whatever they need to do.
on.
Okay?
I need
Do we have a second? I'll have a second.
Okay.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Opposed? All right, public hearings for this. Here's some proposed public hearings. When we get our plan together.
8 to 9 p.m.
I know, it's brutal,
People
isn't
don't
it?
sleep.
I know.
Plus it's in Grangeville, so you.
The
won't
reason
get
why
home
that's
till
late
10.
is because it's after our board meeting. So that's, that way we don't have an additional one, we could just tag it on. That's why that's late.
Okay. It's just for you two, right? We
No,
will-
it's everybody.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, these are the 3.
These are
The
are
3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is what we propose. Public, here's your input.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm fine with just because we are already gonna be at a meeting, so it makes sense to just go 1 hour more and not have more travel fees. So,
In 2007, they kept a transcript of the public meetings, and included a transcript in their proposal in 2006, excuse me. My recommendation is that we record those public hearings and give a link to the recording of those hearings as the documentation of the public hearing.
Great. I think that's a great idea.
can Lacey join by Zoom? Or
I know
does she
it,
have
yeah.
to be here? Can she join by Zoom? And John maybe?
On,
I don't know.
Like
Maybe
the
each could take a turn
22nd?
doing Zoom?
You can have 2 trustees at
Do you have
Zoom.
Zoom?
Yeah, once in a while.
You could have. technically,
well, we're gonna be,
all of
we'll
them.
all be at the October 17th one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be there already, and Elk
She's
City's
just saying
full
for the Elk
yeah.
City and Clearwater Valley.
Oh,
Are you
gotcha.
gonna
We're
make
just
one?
back
Yeah.
out there.
Or you're gonna move it tomorrow?
You can do
The only-
Wednesday,
The only
but
one that's out of line for me would possibly be Clearwater.
These are just proposed. I don't know if
Objection.
Oh, have you got a proposal?
So So the posting for this will be that the quorum is present, no action was taken, but minutes were taken by recording, is what the posting will look like.
And then we'll have to have a special meeting for November 14th is, I think, is when we have to get that in there. We have to submit.
I'll do my best to make it, but there's no guarantees. But I'll be there the 17th.
Be there 17th. Okay.
November board meeting is?
Do you think you'll make the
The
October 23rd?
21st.
I don't know, are you bringing me a birthday cake?
Oh my goodness, is it really? Oh, no.
Yeah?
So what
Oh,
day,
no.
so
We
what,
could-
what day is this due by?
I think it's November 11th, or is it November 11th? November, middle of November.
Is your birthday the 23rd?
Oh.
Yeah. Bring me a cake.
November 14th, we have to have it submitted by November 14th.
Okay, so we'll have to have a special board meeting.
We'll have to have a special board
Okay.
meeting after these three.
Okay.
We'll have to figure out.
Could we do it like October 23rd from 7 to 8?
October 23rd.
Could we do the last
Oh,
meeting?
just
Could
push
we
it
then
back?
have a special meeting after that to?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Oh, gotcha, after.
To just
Yeah,
do whatever we need to
What needs
do?
to happen between the last?
Oh, and then
one of
have a
these?
special board meeting on
Okay,
October
anything that
23rd.
perfect. I like that idea.
No, that's exactly right.
That would be great, since we're all there. That would be great.
That'll probably be the
So 8 PM on the 23rd?
So, the special meeting will be on the 23rd.
From 7 to 8. Perfect. I like that.
I like all of this.
At 7 o'clock.
Yep.
So 6 to 7.
Do we actually have to make a motion? to
Yeah, I
do
need
that?
a motion to accept your, approve your public hearing locations and dates and times, please.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to approve those meetings, or do
I
we need to
move that
still
we
work that?
approve the deconsolidation public hearings as listed in the agenda.
Do we have a second?
And we
Oh, I don't-
add,
What? I don't need a motion for the special board meeting.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
aye.
All right, informational items.
Okay, I can go
See.
quickly through this, because I
That'd
know
be
you
great.
guys are getting meeting fatigue. 10-year facility plan, we kind of beat that to pieces earlier. Carly did a great job. I think I was thinking we'd need some more time. I feel confident with, and I appreciate you taking the lump sum. National motto, just a little update. Ty and I have had a meeting about if any of those national mottos were to be donated to the school, meeting the criteria outlined in that code. We are going to place them in a location near the office of the building, above the front window, if we can fit them. A couple buildings won't fit, so we'll have to put them over on the way.
I looked at above the door on both the offices in Grangeville. I didn't look at this, but I assume it's the same. There's not a lot of space between the door jamb and the ceiling, so, but some location right in there, as close to it as we can.
Just gonna say, Sue, do you have anything to add to, I know you looked into this some more.
So what are we talking about?
The national
The national
motto,
motto.
Idaho
In
Code
God we
33141 is
Yeah.
if people donate a poster with "In God We Trust," and it has some size and color requirements in them that we have to
Yeah.
hang it. Just notifying you we're prepared.
Right. Good.
Fair, there you go.
We were proposing 7 signs, one
Sorry, I was.
We just want them to be consistent, we're trying to figure out a good location to
Right.
put all.
Right, so,
And we're talking about one for each school?
I think the picking the same, 7, so that they can put one in each building.
And one of the district office, I think that number
Yeah.
includes.
One in each building, is that including like the gymnasium at gyms, or one per campus?
Jens would have 2, one for the third school and one for the middle school.
The primary building and the elementary school. Yeah, we just have to, they just need to be a consistent size, because you don't want to have to order a bunch of them, and we're just gonna try to figure out the best location.
Well, we will have 3 of them in the larger size of 18 by 36, and 4 of them 12 by 24. Saying it's something you can handle.
Probably,
Okay.
need to, somebody write that down for me.
Not it.
No, what did you say the size of it?
Three of the size will be 18
No, no, it's
by
good.
36, and 4 of them will be 12 by 24.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll just have to measure and figure out the best location for it.
And we'd kind of like to know that if we present them to you, that you would be able to get them up within about 60 days.
Oh, that's no problem.
Okay, all right. And does anybody want to see kind of a mock-up of what we're looking at, or?
I'm sure it's great.
Okay,
And it follows this Idaho code?
Yep. Black, white, gold, and silver. Oh, that has red in it.
Mm-hmm.
Background lettering and framing of the poster or framed copy include only black, white, gold, and
The
silver.
background.
And then the flags are the wrong color.
Okay, all right. Yep. I'm just gonna, just so you have a copy. As long as it meets that, we're good. All right, we're perfect, we're good then. Yes,
Maureen?
Next.
What's yours?
I don't think she was planning to. Were you planning to report, Maureen? Did I ignore you too? I'm on a roll today.
No, that's okay.
It was
The
reported.
first year is always hectic.
No, it's not.
We're taking our breath. I've had some employee shortages. I hired a person to be my new Gainesville Elementary today. She will start on October 7th. I've got interviews with 2 people. On Monday, I've got another position at Graceville Elementary and a new position here in this building that I'm looking to fill.
Thank you.
The wall project?
Moving on to the Zoom Alt project, in the last meeting, the conversation was about the building being a dry building and kind of back behind the wrestling building for various reasons, mostly because it can't be considered a student-occupied building if it doesn't have a bathroom. A much better decision was made, in my opinion, and I'm always me sharing my opinions, you know, is to move it up by the football field, and it would provide bathrooms for the football facility. It would also provide a concession area. Those bathrooms would be accessible either from the outside. If you think the Idaho County Fair would have that roll-up bar, and then you have access to the men's or the women's bathroom, and then they can close that one bar from the football field side. And then, of course, bathrooms, the same bathrooms accessible.
Wrestling facility. Extremely generous donation by the Zoom Alt family. We appreciate that a lot. It is in process. We do have a architect who is developing plans for it right now, and they feel like they could stay well within budget. Carly, he felt good about the site.
Yeah, Kevin Zumwald's estate not only donated to the wrestling program, but to other sports program, and so in moving this location, we're able to include bathrooms and concessions and a little portion for our booster club. And so we'll be able to utilize partial of the wrestling funds and partial of the other sports funds, and so to make it just a little bit bigger and more accessible to more sports. And so the old location was down here behind the gym, and so it would have taken a lot to get a sewer line there, and so now we're moving it by the football and baseball and tennis courts. And so the water and sewer and electric will all come off the street, and so the concessions and bathrooms will be on this side, and the wrestling gym will be on this side. It was really nice meeting with the architect, and they, I think, will do us a good job, and yeah, it's very, just can't express enough how kind it is of Kevin to leave us these funds.
workshop and ISBA convention, so item 4 and 5, both of those together. It is an organization that represents you. If you don't like what that organization is doing, I encourage you to be involved and have a voice and have it be an organization that works for you. The regional meeting for ISBA is October, can you scroll that just a little bit right there? Region 2 is in Moscow, and it is on the evening of October 24th.
Nope, 23rd.
Okay, 24th. And so at that meeting, they will go over the resolutions that were proposed by other districts in Idaho. And you have an opportunity to ask questions and clarify, make statements for or against. That's a business meeting for you to discuss those kinds of things. That was a poor statement. It is not a business meeting. Business of Mountain View School District will not happen there. You will be informed there, but you also can share your opinions. And then following that is the Idaho School Board Association Convention, which is November 6th through 8th. And at that convention, there's professional development opportunities for you, where you can learn and about different things like open meeting law and how to have workshops, policies and procedures, state trainings that are required. And again, I highly encourage you to be involved in those. I know you are all busy. I get busy to the core of my body. Right now I'm really feeling busy. But it's important to learn. And remember, one of my goals is that we learn, that we're all learning. The students are learning, the teachers are learning, and the trustees are learning. So I encourage you to attend both. I will be attending because I feel like I need to have that information. Someone could ride in a car with me, but I'm only coming back as far as Liston. And so if you want to attend, make sure that...
I need to know.
Okay, no, wait, it's in Boise, isn't it?
Yes, I guess I'd be go past Grangeville on the way
So-
home. That one, you could ride
So,
with me.
you guys, either one, if you're planning on attending and I have a quorum there, I need to post for that. So is anyone planning on attending in Moscow?
No. I was gonna try, I just don't know what my work schedule's gonna be.
Will I have more than 3 there?
No.
You're gonna be
Okay,
here
what
until
about
8
the
p.m.
convention in November? Will I have more than 3 there?
I'm going to that.
Okay.
Is anyone else, because I have further questions about that.
Okay, so I will not post for either one because I will not have a quorum of trustees at either. Okay, thank you.
Hmm?
Was that you?
What?
You going to that?
Nope.
Okay, the next one, policy 8705, concealed firearms policy. It is just, that is a policy that you took action on before, and you see a red line master about the 2 drug testing times that grantees would be tested. One time would be prior to ever being a grantee, before the training, and then of course they would be drug tested again after any incident if there were, God forbid, to be one. And then I'm going to jump right over on, I get to end in good news. Oh,
Excuse me.
sorry.
We don't need to make
No,
a
I-
motion to amend the policy?
You already did that. I just showed you how it had been.
Oh, you just clarified the language.
All I was doing is showing you the
I
language.
see how you play, all right.
I like you to be very informed, so you can see it all. And then I guess I get to end with really good news. The administrators and Carly and I wrote the Idaho State School Resource Officer grant and submitted it. It's kind of impressive, if I want to say so myself. And had letters of support from the communities here in Clearwater Valley as well in Grangeville. None of us really thought we were going to get it, but I was informed yesterday that we have been awarded, it's about $87,000 a year for 3 years to contract with Idaho County Sheriff's Office an officer to work as a school resource officer in all 5 buildings in the district. A schedule would be developed, but not a schedule that was changing enough so that students didn't know which days the officer would be there or not be there. Idaho County Sheriff's Office will be in charge of hiring. We'll help with the advertisement of that, trying to get as many candidates as they can. But it would be an employee of Idaho County Sheriff's Office and would work 12 months of the year. In the summertime, at the discretion of the Sheriff's Office, or doing things like fentanyl awareness classes, parent involvement classes, those things. I think it was kind of exciting news myself.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
Thanks. Is that it?
That's all I have.
We're adjourned.